This is Atomic Shinobi and today I'm going to narrate second part of What If Kid Naruto's got a biological enhanced body. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. No wasting no time, let's start the story.
As she gazed down at the white-haired boy, Anko remarked, "Not bad, brat. You've actually impressed me today. Even his endurance cannot endure a 10-hour training session," Sashi grinned. Anko thought softly, he sure has improved in the last few months. There was no denying that she harbored affection for the child. Maybe not really, but you understand what I mean. Every day, Naruto's taijutsu improves. He seems to get more and more powerful after each battle we have. As she reviewed his abilities, she thought, his adaptation is amazing. He's definitely getting faster. He's been getting stronger and faster ever since he finished that resistance seal. To her, the seal itself is comparable to that of most Jonin. The seal uses his charka to function. As it actively transforms his charka into wind nature, the seal surrounds the body with a barrier that forces the body to expend more energy than it needs to. It does wonders for your charka capacity in addition to helping you become stronger and faster. It appears that as his speed increases, so does his shunpo, and speaking of ninjutsu, it is also making a significant leap. He has created a new jutsu in addition to his two previously created ones, Futon. Kizakuji, wind release. Breathtaking, and Futon. Shunpo, wind release. Flash steps. Actually, I think this one is great. It might come in handy in a life or death situation, Anko thought, grinning. One of his most adaptable jutsu is the Futon. Jeipu, wind style, moonwalk. Similar to the Shunpo, Futon. Jeipu, wind style, moonwalk, uses the feet. This is its child, if anything. You can create a small wind platform with this jutsu while you're in the air, pushing wind charka out of your feet. Once it's created, you can leap onto the platform to avoid attacks or launch the initial strike on a target. The technique's only disadvantage is that you only have 3 seconds to jump onto the platform before it cancels, leaving Naruto vulnerable to an attack. Naturally, those are the only moves she has witnessed. He seemed to be holding one back all the time. She saw him practicing a jutsu she was unfamiliar with. Despite her confusion, she chose not to mention it. It's none of her business. Given that she attacked him in every local location to check if he was on guard, his reflexes are incredible. Anko reflected on his style and concluded that his reflexes are at least high chunin bordering on low jonin. One of the most unusual forms of taijutsu is the soaring dragon. It confuses even the most skilled taijutsu practitioners with its erratic, untamed movements and powerful postures. To Anko's delight, his fighting has undoubtedly improved with Kazemaru's assistance. Because of his increased flexibility, Naruto can now adjust to a wider range of circumstances. As she turned to face Naruto, who was getting himself up off the ground, Anko thought, this kid is already a force to be reckoned with. Yeah, he's ready for it. Alright, brat. You have a mission tomorrow. I won't be with you, but from what I hear this could be a tough one. It's a C rank, so be prepared. Anko replied with a bit of worry. When Naruto saw it, he gave a small smile. Although it was strange to him, it was nice to have someone concerned about him. With a cool smile, Naruto gave her the thumbs up and said, "Hi, Anko. Sensei. I promise I'll be fine. I won't die." Anko grinned, confident that everything would work out. As Naruto started his exhausting journey home, Anko remarked, "You better, brat. Now go get some sleep." Anko gazed thoughtfully up at the sky. "I feel uneasy about this mission." Anko thought as she shushed away, "Naruto, you had better be prepared." After a day with his scrolls prepared for all of his needs, Naruto strolled down the street. He sighed, ignoring the murmurs. Naruto has been spending his free time playing shogi with the Hokage. He couldn't bring himself to respond to the old man's question last week. Rewind, they were neck and neck in a heated match. Naruto noticed a gap on the board that might offer him a chance to win. Putting the piece down, he took a chance. The elderly gentleman only had to move. He was really winning this game. Hiruzen sat looking at the table, searching for a way to escape the trap that had been set for him. He decided to stall after turning to face Naruto and observing his composed expression. Naruto was thinking about what to say when he asked, "Naruto-kun, have you found anything about your family? I know you've been researching them non-stop. Has your effort bared fruit?" Finally, he nodded yes with a sigh. His eyes darted to the Hokage wall and he said, "Hi, I found some clues, but I don't want to say until I have all the facts." Hiruzen saw the expression but remained silent. Naruto shook his head negatively and said, "I see. Well, I have the contract ready for you to sign." "No thank you, old man. I rather not. Sorry, but I would like to find out myself." Hiruzen grinned. Anticipating this response, he took action. Naruto glared at the board and then at Hiruzen, saying, I see very well. Checkmate. Under his breath, Naruto uttered, Kuso. Damn you monkey. Final flashback. Naruto let out a sigh in acceptance of his defeat, but it didn't make his irritation go away. He sighed as he entered the building, wondering which god was watching out for him. Team 7 was waiting for him there as well. Hiruzen saw Naruto glaring at him when he looked up. Knowing exactly why the look was directed at him, he could only smirk. Oh, Naruto-kun, you're here. I assume that Anko has told you the mission? Naruto gave a nod. Hiruzen nodded as a man approached him and said, Hi Hokage. Sama. We are to protect the bridge builder from coming under harm. The man swallowed more of his sake and said, What, another kid? Damn it, all my money goes to you. I thought I was getting real ninjas, not children. Tazuna swallowed hard for his sake without saying anything. Pray tell, why would this be a problem? You've been told on what your money goes to, so why are you so surprised? This is a C-rank mission, if I'm correct. Naruto squinted at the man but then looked at the next person who dared to confront him. A frown crossed Sasuke's lips as he said, Dope. Sasuke scowled at him and pushed past him, saying, Sasuke. Teme. Naruto's expression was emotionless as he said, Don't get in my way. He could almost taste Sasuke's anger, but he said nothing, spoke with Kakashi about it, and left the room after saying, I should tell you this. I am your superior. You best not forget that. As they passed him, Sakura turned to face Naruto, who turned to face the others. Do you think it's a good idea for me to come along? He asked, turning to face Kakashi, who shook his head in agreement. Naruto nodded and turned to face Hiruzen as the man and Kakashi departed, saying, Not really, but it's the Hokage's decision, not mine. Meet us at the North Gate. That makes me think. The man's name escaped me. Oh well, he couldn't have been that important back then. Hiruzen called him over just as he was ready to go. Hiruzen felt a little uneasy at the expression on his face. This is a look he has never seen. It was severe and very professional. He seemed to be observing him. The idea made him shudder. Naruto. Before you leave. After 20 minutes the man drank his sake and asked again, Where is that kid? He'll be here, Tazuna-san. If I had to guess, he's making sure he has everything. Sakura sighed in frustration, hoping he wouldn't catch Kakashi's illness. Kakashi turned the page in his book without even glancing at the man. Yes, Sakura must be ill if people are late. Just in front of Kakashi, a figure leapt from the establishment. Naruto, why are you late? Naruto asked with a sheepish smile. All but Kakashi stared at him as he said, Ma, I'm sorry I'm late, I got lost on the road of life. Fuck it. Kakashi. Sensei, how could you have so corrupted him? As Sakura shed anime tears, she pondered. Sasuke watched indifferently. Sai flashed his eerie phony smile. As he left the gate, Kakashi remarked, Well, I'm glad you made it back in one piece. Some strange things happen on that road. Naruto pulled out his book and nodded, saying, Indeed. The others silently trailed behind the two. OXOXOXOXOX, they have been gone for a few hours. For a shinobi, a wave is actually a quick 4-hour run. It's taking a lot longer because they are walking at a civilian pace. In an attempt to strike up a conversation, Sakura asked, Hey Tazuna, what's wave like? As he spoke of his home, Tazuna's eyes became warm. As he considered the final sentence, Tazuna remarked, It's a beautiful place. People there are so friendly. There's so much love around the place. At least tell Gata got there and started to take over. They don't need to know that. Sakura turned to Kakashi and nodded. Hey sensei, why don't you wave have any ninjas? Sakura asked, ignoring the three to maintain his concentration. He was already aware of the academy's teachings about the hidden village hell. With a sigh, he turned away. He smelled something, and his eyes widened. What the? Do I have a human scent? As he searched from left to right for the source, Naruto said. Just in the center of the road, he saw a puddle. How come it hasn't rained for days? This must be a genjutsu, he said, putting up his book after noticing that Sai and Kakashi had also taken notice. He reached for a kunai, almost grinning to himself. When Sakura called his name, he snapped out of his reverie and said, It's almost showtime. With a cool voice, Naruto asked, What is it, Sakura? Even though he had heard she was training more, he needed to see it for himself to believe it. Sakura had a dejected expression on her face as she gazed at the ground. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. I've been nothing but a bitch to you and everyone around me. I'm sorry. She bowed her head, not wanting to see his rejection, and Naruto looked at her. Naruto exhaled. I forgave you a long time ago for your words, but just because I have doesn't mean I forgive you yet. You have to prove to me that you'll do your best on this mission. No waiting on the sidelines. Sasuke and I will need all the help we can get. We need you with us, can you promise me that? The words made her blush. When he told her that, he looked really cool. She made him smile by saying, Hi. I promise I won't give up. After nodding, he quickly shoved her and Tazuna out of the way so they could reach Kakashi. Everything appeared to be moving slowly to her. As the chains encircled him and Kakashi, she saw him curse himself for not moving quickly enough. After that, she was only able to see red. Sakura went into shock as blood spilled onto the floor. Sasuke and Sai acted with their well-known fury. Sasuke launched an angry attack that left him bewildered. The demon brothers were easily defeated by the two of them. Kakashi grinned proudly as he returned to the battlefield. Turning to face his female student, Kakashi remarked, "Good job everyone, Sakura. I didn't expect you to just freeze like that." However, she had her sights set on a mangled body. Kakashi became anxious because he was sure Naruto would replace him in the same way he did. With a chilly thud in his chest, Kakashi shouted into the tree, "Okay, Naruto, come on out. You're frightening Sakura." He sniffed in an attempt to detect Naruto's scent, but all he detected was the body. As he rushed to the corpse, hoping it wasn't him, a chill went up his spine. "Please, Kami, don't," Kakashi shouted to himself. A sense of emptiness filled the space. This was no ruse. Indeed, Naruto was dead. The group is found sleeping at Tazuna's house. As they thought back on what had happened the day before, the house was deathly quiet. Kakashi sat in a futon, seeing a face he knew very well. A distressed expression on a loved one. He couldn't resist reflecting on the previous few hours. Rewind. Kakashi clenched his fist and stood over Naruto's mangled body. Grabbing the man by the collar, he swung his body. Ignore that outcome. He killed just now. Why? Tazuna looked shamefully at the ground and remained silent. Sasuke observed, but he quickly looked away because he could no longer bear to look at Naruto's body. Sakura was attempting to wipe her eyes when he turned to face her. Sai's face was expressionless as she stood there. Tazuna could see the tears in the man's eyes as she looked at him. He never desired this. Kakashi crunched his windpipe as, Gomen. Tazuna barely managed to escape. Kakashi released the man's shirt gradually. Kakashi appeared to be walking dead. With venom in his voice, Kakashi remarked, "You knew that shinobi were after you. Why did you lie to us? Not only has this cost the village money, but it also cost someone their life." Tazuna dabbed at his tears. Despite his tall stature, his eyes were filled with regret. Sakura looked at the man in disbelief and said, "I'm so sorry. I am deeply sorry and ashamed at what I did. I had to choose the necessary evil. Evil that is necessary. Someone just gave their life for Hima for her." Tazuna corrected his statement after noticing the girl's expression. The man was left speechless, with no one knowing how to respond. "I had to make a choice to live in fear and most likely watch my entire family die, or fight back and hope that my idea works. You see, an evil man controls my village, forcing us to work under him. People are sick and dying, many are homeless, and some have just given up hope. I became a bridge builder so I could help bring my nation peace. I'm sorry. I had no idea I would be dragging young children to the battle. This is all my fault," he said with a fist in his hands. Kakashi nodded his head. "I understand why you did it. You wanted to help your country. The needs of many outweigh the needs of one. That's something Naruto believed in. Tell me, who is this evil man?" A gloomy expression appeared on Tazuna's face, and he scowled, "Gotta." Kakashi gazed up at him, astonished. Tazuna nods, "The rich business tycoon? Yeah, that's the one. He's a ruthless man. He rapes our women, steals our money. He's nothing but a beast on our land. Do you see why I lied? I couldn't do it alone. Gotta's too much of a monster to let him live." Tazuna grumbled with rage. For several minutes, no one spoke. Turning away from Tazuna, Kakashi said, "I understand why you did it, but I'm afraid that we are not obligated to continue the mission. Those two ninjas were C ranks, and the next one is probably going to be a Jonin. This mission has now turned into at least an A rank. My team isn't ready for this type of mission. Not to mention." Kakashi turned his eyes to the dead body and concluded, eager to assist the man. He turned to face his team and opened his mouth to speak when he heard dirt shifting. He turned to watch Sakura dig a hole for Naruto's remains. She held onto his book tightly in her hands after the body was buried. "I would like to keep going," she said, turning to face Kakashi as she wiped her eyes with her shirt. Silence fell. Everyone stared at her in disbelief. Sai was the only person who didn't think she was crazy. Why? Kakashi said, catching his breath. Sakura's eyes were full of resolve as she gazed at him. Her words caused Sasuke and Kakashi to wince. Because Naruto wouldn't have given up. There was silence again. Sasuke's face was slightly smirking. Sakura smiled at Sasuke as he said, she's right. Not only that, but we asked for this mission. We might as well finish it. With a sigh, Kakashi considered his options. They could continue with backup, or he could go back and let the old man die. It appeared that his team was eager to leave. Kakashi cut his thumb with a kunai and slammed it to the ground in response. Okay, but I'm calling for backup. We'll need all the help we can get. After the smoke cleared, a tiny puppy emerged. Yo! The puppy exclaimed, frightening Tazuna and the Genins to no end. The dog had a dark brown snout and was small with brown fur. He appears to have a Konoha forehead protector on top of his head and a blue vest Hino.hen. Moheji seal on. His right paw is also covered in bandages. Kakashi remained composed and recorded the events on a scroll. As Puckin nodded, he could already smell the blood nearby. Puckin, I need you to go back to the leaf for me. Something important happened and we now need backup. Snatching the seal in his mouth, he drove away. Seeing that a portion of the mission was completed, Kakashi sighed. All right, let's set up camp a short distance away. We must wait for our backup. Everyone nodded and began to move, hoping that the day would soon come to an end. A couple of hours later, with the Hokage, the solemn atmosphere would be apparent to anyone who entered the Hokage's office. The agony and suffering seemed to go on forever. The scroll that Kakashi's nin dog sent again was read by Hiruzen. All that was visible to him was Uzumaki Naruto. Kia, back up. Wiping his eyes, Hiruzen reflected on the past. I'm sorry your life ended so suddenly, Naruto. You've experienced a lot. Hiruzen pushed the unpleasant memories away by closing his eyes. Naruto's mind replayed every assault, assassination attempt, and hospital stay he had experienced. It was quite distressing. He could still recall the boy's dream when he was younger, it was so innocent. Rewind. The Hokage's office was invaded by a young boy with blonde hair and whisker makers on his cheeks. Hiruzen grinned as he glanced up at the boy. Hello Naruto, what seems to be the rush? Naruto's smile seemed to get brighter as he told his tale. Oji-san. I've finally decided what I want to do. Since you are the Hokage, everyone looks up to you, so that will be my job in a few years. Naruto inhaled before pointing at him in a position that would make any mother smile. I will be a hostage, the flashback concludes. As he recalled that memory, Hiruzen couldn't help but smile because it made him feel so proud. Things seemed to get worse for him over the years after the Orochimaru incident, and everyone seemed to know what had happened. Naruto, like Anko, began to hate the snake for adding fuel to the fire. As he grew older, Naruto remained solitary and occasionally even let his cold heart get to Hiruzen. Rewind. As he read the report, Hiruzen entered the hospital room where Naruto was lying and looked at the broken boy. He had a cracked skull, a broken rib, both arms, and a kunai to the chest that had barely missed his heart. It was incredible that the boy was still alive. Naruto's purple eyes never left the window as he gazed out, aware of who had entered his room. How are you, Naruto-kun? The old man sat in a chair beside the boy's bed, but Hiruzen got no response. I apologize, Naruto, for this incident. In an attempt to make the silver-haired boy feel better, the man said, I swear that those people won't harm you anymore. They're dead, aren't they? Naruto said, but he got no response. His voice, strained as it was, seemed to reverberate throughout the room as he continued, good. The third person's heart seemed to break upon hearing those words. Naruto-kun, I thought you might want to take a vacation from the academy to recuperate. Hiruzen stood up and walked to the door, saying, you'll need your strength if you want to be Hokage. Looking at Naruto's expressionless face, Hiruzen paused and said, why would I want to be Hokage over these people? The people that tried to kill me, they can all go to hell for all I care. You could hear the old man's heart breaking if you paid close attention. The end of the flashback. Naruto. I've done nothing but fail when it came to you. I'm so sorry, Hiruzen thought to himself as he heard a knock on his door. He had to be strong. It's his job. With as much power as he could let go of his grief said for the person to come in. Hiruzen couldn't stop the tears from streaming down his face this time as that memory came forward. Team 8 ready at your will Hokage. Sama. Kurenai stepped forward, a little more nervous but still confident, and said, Team 8 ready at your will Hokage. Sama. Hiruzen nodded to her, folded his hands together, and took a deep breath. Hiruzen mentally cursed himself for that, but he kept his gaze on the group. It appears that Team 7, aided by Naruto Uzumaki, has encountered difficulties during their first C-rank mission and needs assistance. When Kiba heard that, he grinned and said, I bet Naruto. Baka got in the way. Your slot was the only one available, so you will go for backup. Hiruzen and Hinata squinted at the boy as Kiba said, he always does that. Kiba folded his arms and shook his head. I'm afraid that you have an addition to the mission as well, Hiruzen said, clearing his throat to get rid of the thoughts he was having before deciding to reveal the truth to the Genins. After that, there was only silence in the room. Your side mission is to bring back the body of one Uzumaki Naruto back to the leaf where he can have a proper burial. Kiba was the first to emerge from the shock. What do you mean a proper burial? You mean to tell me that. He was unable to finish the sentence, as if the words had died in his throat. To be honest, Kiba respected Naruto despite the fact that he occasionally made fun of him. He saw kinship in Naruto because of his animal bloodline, and he couldn't he couldn't accept that he was. Kiba closed his eyes tightly, unwilling to consider it. Shino stood there looking unreadable, and if you paid close attention, his hive appeared to have calmed down, almost as if they were mourning. Naruto-kun. No, he can't be gone. Hinata was still in shock over what she had heard. Tears seemed to flow from her eyes. Her boyfriend, the man who had given her so much courage, the person she loved, and the man she had been chasing all her life were dead. Her legs and mind seemed to give out, and soon all she could see was darkness. Returning to Kakashi, nothing seemed to have made noise that night, just the crinkling of fire embers. Tazuna and Kakashi sat at the fire in awkward silence, with neither of them making any noise. When Tazuna turned to face Kakashi, he was rubbing a small brown book, which was different from his usual books because it appeared to be much older and used. I was going to give him this, you know. Kakashi said suddenly, still rubbing the book affectionately, and Tazuna licked his parched lips, almost fearing what he would say next. Why? With a pained smile, Kakashi said, his father owned it. Tazuna removed his glasses to wipe away his tears and felt his heart pound loudly in his chest. I was given it to give to him after he died. Kakashi Gomen. There are no words to describe my apologies. Saving my nation was all I wanted to accomplish. They have long been subjected to oppression. I assumed that everything would be fine with a shinobi's assistance, but... Tazuna began to choke on his tears and was unable to finish his sentence. I'm sorry. You don't need to say sorry. I can see why you took the actions you did. You don't have to apologize to me. Naruto wouldn't want us to be depressed. In fact, he would be somewhat pleased. He has never been the object of someone's tears. I was a fool. I was very familiar with his father. My sensei was him. All I can say is that I wish I had had more time to spend with his son. The Cyclops said, get some sleep, Tazuna. We have a long walk in the morning. Tazuna nods and heads to his tent, where he falls into a dreamless slumber. He was all I had. Tazuna muses silently over what the Cyclops said. Sighing for the man, Kakashi felt sorry for him. He was trying to save his country and many lives, and someone died anyhow. It was heartbreaking. Kakashi walked mindlessly to his students' tents, only to hear Sakura's tent crying. He wanted to comfort the girl, but he was never good at it, so all he could do was stare up at the night sky and think, I'm sorry, sensei. I was unable to protect your son. I failed you. Images of Naruto and his former team raced through his head, and he shed a single tear as he prepared to face nightmares while heading to his tent. Why? Why did you do that, you idiot? Why did you sacrifice your life to save mine? I've been training ever since that day. Sakura was a reek with puffy eyes, frazzled hair, and tears that seemed to be focused on one persona, Naruto. Rewind. You were the worst of the worst, Sakura. Sakura looked up at Naruto in amazement, as though all of her questions were about to be answered. I can tell right now what your role as a ninja would be, Naruto said, sneering at the girl. With a note of rage in his voice, Naruto uttered, a sacrifice. Sakura gazed at the ground while tears streamed down her cheeks. The end of the flashback to demonstrate that I'm not a sacrifice, I've been training relentlessly. Rewind. Sakura wiped away her tears and glared up at the blonde, asking, why would I be a sacrifice? At school, I was among the most popular girls. Above all, I wasn't a dead last like you, and I was among the prettiest. I should be feared and respected by you, the last of the dead, Sakura said, regaining her confidence, and he allowed her to vent to him in good faith. Naruto gave her a scowl and added a hint of murderous intent. Sakura winced as Naruto asked, are you done? The end of the flashback, to demonstrate my importance. Rewind. Naruto sighed and closed his eyes. Naruto said, his voice devoid of emotion, I should fear you, huh? No, I shouldn't fear you. Despite their confusion, Sakura and Sasuke remained silent. Everyone became tense as Naruto paused and said, "Instead, both of you." Naruto opened his eyes and yelled, "Should fear me," with a shitload of murderous intent. As the desire to kill passed through Sakura and Sasuke, they both gasped. Sakura shivered in fear and spat on the ground. As he struggled to get his bearings, Sasuke simply gasped. Because Naruto's murderous intent reminded him of the Kyuubi's, Kakashi retreated a step. "Sakura, I will give you one warning. Don't you ever talk to me like that again. That little speech you made was something I expected you to say, so I have a little speech to say myself." Naruto was grinning wickedly. Sakura shivered in terror, but she wasn't prepared for a fist to land in her stomach and cause her to cough up blood. Then, grabbing her hair, Naruto forced her to look into his eyes. Sakura's eyes were watering as she gazed at Naruto. She turned to face Naruto, who had a face devoid of emotion. With his now cold and hazy purple eyes, which seemed to bore into her and make her fear him even more, he looked down at her without even the slightest trace of sympathy. "I'll tell you something, Sakura. You are weak. You don't stand a chance against me," Naruto said, throwing her into Sasuke. "You seem to think of yourself in a good light, better than me." When Sasuke saw how Naruto was treating the girl, he looked at him in confusion. It simply didn't make sense. Yes, Naruto changed, but why did he still hurt the girl so much? This was an animal, not Naruto. "Foolish little ninja, you seem to think that just because you were the best on test that you're the best out on the field as well. You lack the drive to be the best. That goes to you too, Sasuke. If you want to be the best, then you need to pull your own weight when the times come. Until you learn that, however, I will know, nor will I ever lend my help to fools like you. Now Kakashi, I take my leave." And with that, Naruto left the group and went silent. The end of the flashback. To demonstrate that he was mistaken, she eventually told herself this. She only desired respect. One person showed her respect, and it wasn't Sasuke. For the first time she could recall. Recalling his final words, she choked on her tears. Rewind. "I forgave you a long time ago for your words, but just because I have doesn't mean I forgive you yet. You have to prove to me that you'll do your best on this mission. No waiting on the sidelines. Sasuke and I will need all the help we can get. We need you with us, can you promise me that?" Naruto said with a grin. When he told her that, he looked really cool. She made him smile by saying, "Hi. I promise I won't give up." The end of the flashback. He went and died when I finally got what I wanted. Damn it, Naruto. She sobbed herself to sleep that night. Nor would it be the final instance. He sat in a tree with Sasuke, gazing at the moon. Despite having the first watch, he was unable to concentrate. His thoughts kept returning to the night his brother had murdered his clan. Every death, every blood stain. To get rid of the memories, he closed his eyes. That marked a sea change in his life. The day he would become more than just an avenger. He was even more terrified than his brother that day because he sensed something so icy and hollow. He sensed the icy steel of powerlessness. It was too much for him that night when he sewed his family's death in front of his eyes for what felt like days. Just like before, Sasuke thought, clenching his fist, I couldn't do anything. He detested that sensation with all his heart. Naruto wasn't used to the expression in his eyes as he passed away. He could still see the head even though his body was torn to pieces. That jerk had the audacity to smile as he passed away. However, his eyes. That was something he would always remember. There was a look of relief and joy in the deep purple haze in his eyes. Why would you be so happy to die, you idiot? Why were you so relieved? I don't understand. Sasuke's thoughts stopped when he felt an unfamiliar sensation run down his cheeks. After wiping it up, he became aware that he was crying for the drug. For Naruto, he was in tears. His eyes grew softer as he dried them and glanced back up at the moon. He was almost whispering when he spoke. Saying his final goodbye as he left, Sasuke said, I never liked you, dope. You were my rival. Someone to measure my strength for when the day came to kill my brother. You just had to die, you fucking bastard. But you were someone that even I, a Uchiha, could respect. I will never feel helpless again, he said. I promise. For the team, morning arrived quickly. Kakashi watched the sun rise while standing by the fire. He could already hear the beginnings of his team's awakening. His shoulders slumped slightly as he let out a sigh. He slept very little last night. His eyes grew wide as he detected a scent emanating from the wind. He brought out a kunai in preparation for an attack, but he put it away as his team left their tent and Team 8 leapt from the trees. They all stared at one another in silence. The first to break the silence was Kurenai. Kakashi nodded, anticipating what would happen. Hello, Kakashi. I'm sorry for what had happened. I need you to fill me in on what happened. Play by play, Kakashi explained what was happening to her. Kurenai asked. You know that the next ninja will most likely be a Jonin, right? Kakashi nodded, his slack expression completely gone. Kurenai nods as her team begins to disperse, saying, yeah, I know. It would be best if I took my team ahead while your team sets up an ambush if things get out of hand. Sakura approaches Hinata with some concern. She is aware of her long-standing, intense crush on the boy. Sakura's large, swollen eyes attempted to produce more tears as she said, Hinata? I'm sorry for what happened to Naruto. It's all my fault. Hinata shook her head and turned to face her. Sakura was taken aback for two reasons when she smiled at her pinky and said, it's not your fault, Sakura-san. While Naruto and I have only been going out for a few months now, I'm not sad. She was unaware that Hinata and Naruto had been dating for several months. The second reason was to prevent her from feeling depressed. It was illogical. Hinata flashed a tentative smile and asked, What? Why? As a gentle wind blew past her, Hinata whispered, I think he's still alive. I know you saw his body, but something in my heart is telling me that he's alive somewhere out there. Sakura smiled as she whispered, I just know it. Several miles away, Kakashi, Sasuke, Sakura, and Sai are seen strolling along a wooden path. The group appeared extremely tense, as if they were waiting for something to suddenly appear. With his senses sharpened, Kakashi hid behind his book, searching the area for anything strange. It appeared that Sasuke was doing the same. He had his eyes wide open. Sai is walking carefully, just like any other trained agent. He never stops thinking about his mission. While remaining near Tazuna, Sakura was taking in her surroundings. She vowed never to let herself feel weak again. A mist rolled in slowly but steadily. It was ignored by Sakura and Sasuke. In contrast, Kakashi and Sai did. It's not a natural mist. There's a problem here. Kakashi thought to himself, bracing himself for what was about to happen. Better be on my guard. Sai watched without saying anything. He only pulled out his sketchbook, prepared to strike. When Sasuke noticed a slight movement in a bush, he instantly launched a kunai into the bushes, where he found a white rabbit. Sai made an extremely potent observation, which increased the tension. It's a trap. This rabbit's hair is white, it shouldn't be that way in the wild just yet. Sakura shoved Tazuna to the ground as Kakashi yelled, get down, and slammed Sai and Sasuke to the ground. A giant fucking sword soared over her head and slammed into a tree as Sakura turned her eye upward. A tanned man wearing loose combat pants and a mist headband appeared in front of her. The man's mouth was covered in bandages. Glaring down at the genins, the man remarked, so Sharingan Kakashi, the copycat ninja, this is a treat. When Sasuke hears his bloodline's name, his eyes enlarge. Kakashi Sharingan? Could he be? Kakashi glared back, maintaining his composure. Zabuza gave Kakashi a serious look and said, Momochi Zabuza, demon of the hidden mist, what brings you out here? With bloodlust leaking out of his eye, Zabuza said, well, you know, see the fall leaves, the beach and let's not forget killing the old man behind you. You don't mind, do you? I'll be quick. Kakashi put his hand on his headband and squinted his eyes. A red eye with 3 black tomos spinning and stopping in a circle was displayed as Kakashi pushed the headband up, saying, I'm sorry, but I can't allow you to kill him. If you want him, then you'll have to get past me, and I can guarantee that it won't be easy. Zabuza laughed savagely at the danger. As he vanished with his sword, Zabuza remarked, bringing out the Sharingan already? I'm honored. Abruptly, he emerged on the water, his massive sword behind him. As a dense fog rolled in, blinding everyone, Zabuza said, now let's spill some blood. Kiba murmured in the trees, fog. The raw power that seemed to emanate from Zabuza caused Akamaru, wearing Kiba's jacket, to whimper. Shaking her head, Hinata muttered, no, it's mist. Sakura noticed that the mist appeared to be growing thicker as she looked around. Nothing is visible to me. When you can't see someone, how can you fight them? With a look of resolve in his eyes, Sasuke observed. Even though he was trembling from fear of the murderous intent in the air, he could still clearly recall Naruto's body. I have to get to him. I have to survive this. For him, for Naruto, I must demonstrate my strength. Sai just watched, unable to allow his fear to control him. He's been taught to suppress his emotions. So why did he find it so difficult to stop shaking? A disembodied voice said, 8 points. Over the forest. It seemed as though the voice chilled the genins' hearts. While Akamaru shuddered in terror, deep within Kiba's coat, Kiba swallowed a lump of spit. Shino was calming his bugs with all of his focus. Hinata was making every effort to see through the fog. Hinata frightened her now. Anxious sensei, saying, this mist is saturated with charka. My Byakugan can't see through this mist Kurenai. Sensei. A demonic laugh seemed to reverberate through the trees: liver, lungs, spine, clavicle vein, neck vein, brain, kidneys, heart. From behind Team 8, Zabuza asked, "Now which one should I hit?" "Die!" Zabuza yelled, slashing the children with his sword. As the sword speeds toward Kiba, Shino, and Hinata, their eyes enlarge. In anticipation of the blow, the groups closed their eyes, but nothing materialized. Kakashi was standing in front of them when they opened their eyes, holding a kunai inside Zabuza's stomach. Kakashi glared at Zabuza with his Sharingan and declared, "Game over." Zabuza laughed painfully, and blood appeared to be streaming from his wound. As the blood turned to water in front of their eyes, Zabuza grinned bloodily and said, "No. This game is just getting started." Kakashi's gaze enlarges. Amizu Bunshin. He must be with the bridge builder if he wasn't present. Sakura scanned her surroundings, waiting for an event to occur. The fog seemed to grow thicker and thicker until she could see nothing. Sasuke-kun. Can you see anything? Sasuke asked, his eyes scanning the mist with a hint of fear, but he remained silent. Fearing for his life, Tazuna gulped and said, "No, I can't see anything." Sakura started to say, "I have a bad feeling about this." Then a chill went through the group's back. Zabuza declared in the midst of the group, "It's over." As he swung his sword, the group turned to face the missing nin. Suddenly, Kakashi burst through the crowd and stabbed Zabuza again. Sakura exclaimed, "Kakashi! Sensei behind you," as a second Zabuza emerged from the haze and swung his sword at the group, severing Kakashi's and the fake Zabuza's bodies. Zabuza grinned, but when Kakashi also exploded into water, he lost it. Zabuza exclaimed, "What? He copied it," but as soon as he felt a kunai touch his neck, his amazement quickly turned to rage. With a sigh of relief from teams 7 and 8, Kakashi declared, "Like I said before, game over." Sasuke grinned and remarked, "He did it, it's over." Sakura let out a sigh, relieved that it was over. Sai had a tiny smile on his face, which was visible if you looked closely. Kurenai sensed that something was amiss, saying, "That was much too easy." Team 8 also grinned admiringly at the one-eyed ninja. Zabuza is a missing nin with an A ranking. Why was he caught in this manner? Kakashi, there's a problem. He doesn't even appear to be scared of getting caught. What's happening? In what appeared to be a smile, Zabuza's bandaged face curved up even more. Zabuza said, "Hee. Game over." "No, you don't get it. There's no way that your monkey imitations can defeat me, but I have to say that it was impressive. You already copied my Mizu Bunshin from the beginning of the battle, but you weren't prepared for me to attack your little group in the trees. This caught you off guard and forced you to come out of the mist and attack my clone. When you realized it was a clone, you sent one of your clones and attacked the clone. When you thought it was me, you came out of hiding, believing you had won." No one in particular was asked by Kakashi, "What the? Why is the water so heavy?" He didn't have to wait long because Zabuza quickly made some hand seals after racing to the defeated Kakashi. Zabuza shouted, "Got ya! Sweden! Suira no Jutsu!" while Kakashi was imprisoned in a water sphere. Zabuza grinned as he turned to face the stranded Kakashi. Zabuza made a hand seal and said, "Now that you're out of the way, let's take out those 6 brats, shall we?" Gazing at the missing nin, Kakashi grinned. He said, "Sorry, but this fight isn't over just yet." Almost immediately after, a tree appeared out of the ground, its vines holding Zabuza in place. Zabuza screamed, "What the?" as a sharp pain shot through his back. Kurenai stabbed him in the chest and tore out the kunai she had stabbed in his back. When she saw that she had missed every important spot, she swore. She kicked Zabuza across the lake without missing a beat, releasing Kakashi. Kurenai nodded as she waited for Zabuza to approach, and Kakashi turned to face her, "Thanks for the help." As he attempted to stop the bleeding from his chest, Zabuza exclaimed, "There was another Jonin in hiding? Damn, oh my god, that was very dear to my heart. It would have been over if I had moved a couple more inches to the left," Zabuza thought, squinting at the agony. "Now that I have 2 Jonins to watch out for, I need to exercise caution." Kurenai gave Kakashi a worried glance. Panting to catch his breath, Kakashi asked, "Are you alright, Kakashi?" Kakashi stood up and glared at Zabuza, saying, "Yeah, I'm fine. He just caught me off guard. It won't happen again. I won't fall for the same jutsu twice. I'm finishing this." Following that, Kurenai leapt back to the children as Zabuza and Kakashi began performing a variety of hand seals. Alongside the group, the Kurenai just you left the group speechless. "Alright Kurenai. Sensei got him," Kiba exclaimed with delight. His joy seemed to radiate throughout the group. "What did she do?" The shirtless guy was about to do something, but all of a sudden he stopped. Tazuna asked, the only one who asked the question. Tazuna gasped when Sai said, she used genjutsu. Pointing to the albino, Tazuna exclaimed, that's the first thing you said during this entire trip, causing everyone in his vicinity to collapse in an anime style. The group got back up and gave the elderly man a stern look as he explained that jokes were not appropriate at this time. Zabuza and Kakashi were making a lot of hand seals when they returned to the fight, but something wasn't right. They jumped when Kurenai said, eyes up people. Behind them. Kurenai kept her gaze fixed on the fight and remained silent in response to their response. Kurenai's words, you're about to see why Kakashi is called the copy nin, caused everyone's gaze to return to the fight. Alongside Kakashi, Zabuza was taken aback when Kakashi and Zabuza simultaneously exclaimed, Sweden. Suiria, Dan no Jutsu, and hurled a gigantic water dragon at one another. In a watery spat, the dragons attacked and destroyed one another. Alongside the group shielding Akamaru from the raging water that backfired from the two jutsus, Kiba exclaimed, what the hell? Holding onto his straw hat, Tazuna exclaimed, it's like a hurricane, as he marveled at the power he was witnessing. Sasuke watched in complete disbelief. Sasuke thought to himself, it's unbelievable that he was able to replicate so many seals in such a short period of time. In contrast, Sakura was exactly like Sasuke. She was astounded by her lazy sensei's inner strength. How can someone with his level of laziness be this powerful? Alongside Kakashi, it appeared as though Zabuza and Kakashi were locked in a deadlock during the dragon's sexual encounter. Kunai versus sword. Zabuza watched, somewhat perplexed. Unusual. What's happening? As Zabuza and Kakashi leapt back onto the water to increase their distance, they did so simultaneously once more. Kakashi followed Zabuza like a mirror when he attempted to run around him. He stopped making a ram seal motion with his left hand and his right arm in the air. He turned to face Kakashi, who was doing the same thing. He seems to be reading your mind. What, did he read my thoughts? With a masked smirk, Kakashi said, yes, I did. Zabuza became enraged. As they made some seals, Zabuza and Kakashi yelled at one another, damn you. You stupid monkey. You can't beat me. Kakashi followed them to a T as before. Zabuza screamed, damn you. I'll make sure you'll never open your fucking mouth again, before recoiling in surprise. No way. Kakashi's train of thought was interrupted by a vision of Zabuza standing behind him. This cannot be done. Is this the other Jonin's genjutsu? Naturally, he lost because of his lack of focus. Kakashi shouted, Sweden. Daibakufu no jutsu. As he heard his agonized cries as the water attacked his now bruised and battered skin. Kakashi pinned Zabuza to a tree by throwing a few kunai at him without missing a beat. It simply doesn't seem possible. I can't keep up. How come I'm the one practicing jutsu yet? From the top of a branch above Zabuza, Kakashi said, I told you, I was finishing this. With a hint of fear in his eyes, Zabuza asked, how? Can you see into the future? Seeking the truth, he gazed into Kakashi's lone Sharingan eye. Zabuza didn't have to wait long for a pair of senbons to shock everyone by flowing straight through his neck as the tome in his eye began to spin in a deadly dance, saying, yes, you're going to die here. From a tree above him, Kakashi could see a boy wearing an odd mask. As the genins ran to the missing nin, the boy remarked, you're right, it was his time to die. Kiba turned to face the ninja who had killed the lethal nin. Kiba shocked Team 7 by stating, you're a hunter nin aren't you? And explaining how he knew that. After the boy nodded, Kakashi moved to Zabuza's side and felt for his pulse. This kid's not normal. Kakashi and Kurenai looked at the boy and thought, yeah, he's dead alright. Before Sakura could respond, Kurenai said, Sakura-san, you can tell because of his mask. Every village has their own kind of mask that represents them. Kakashi approached Sakura and put a hand on his shoulder. Kiba, you said he was a hunter nin. How can that be? He looks to be about our age. It's true. While it's true that he's young, in this world, there are kids younger than you. Yet stronger than me. Kakashi said with a gloomy voice. The boy showed up beside the body, disappointed in a flurry of leaves. After quickly checking it, he picked it up. The boy vanished as soon as he said, your battle is over. And now I must dispose of the body. If you'll excuse me. With a sigh, Kakashi pulled his headband down. Regretfully, before his vision turned black, that was all he could recall. End of flashback. As he moved his arms, Kakashi became aware that his entire body felt like lead. I must have been exhausted after that fight. When the door opened, he was unable to continue thinking, I need to stop overusing my Sharingan. Kurenai brought him some bread and said, "Good, you're awake." He waved off the Genin's questions about his well-being. After being silent for a few minutes, Kakashi turned to face Kurenai and asked, "Did you figure it out?" Kurenai nodded, already understanding what he was talking about. "I'm fine, just a small case of chakra exhaustion." Hinata gazed bewilderedly at the two. Kurenai grinned at the fact that Kakashi didn't stutter once, and Kakashi nodded. Kakashi. Sensei, Kurenai. Sensei, is there something that we should know? Everyone was shocked to hear, "Yes, we hate to tell you this, but Zabuza is still alive." Overhearing, Tazuna rushed into the room, a little alarmed. Sakura became quite alarmed and exclaimed, "What do you mean he's alive? You even said he was dead." The thing is that if he needed proof of his kill, he would only need his head, not only that but the weapon he used. Everyone was quiet as they speculated about the masked nin's thoughts. "No way!" Kiba and Sasuke exclaimed simultaneously, causing everyone to turn to watch them for their outburst. "I think I understand in what you and Kurenai-sensei are talking about. Since my sister and mother used to be a hunter nin, I know a lot more about what they do than some people." Kiba was looking gloomy. Kurenai nodded proudly at her pupil, saying, "What that guy did to Zabuza was just put him in a temporary death state." Kurenai wanted to test his knowledge, so he asked, "Do you know how he did it?" Everyone but Sasuke, Kurenai, and Kakashi were perplexed by the statement. The weapons that he used did the trick. The senbons he used have a very low killing rate and are only useful when aimed at a vital point. It's mostly used by doctor for acupuncture therapy. The boy blushed a little when Kakashi said, "Very good, Kiba, your family would be proud." When Kurenai gained the spotlight, he stated, "Hunter. Nins know a lot about the human body structure thoroughly. Putting a person in a temporary death state would be child's play for M. The first thing he did was carry the body away, which is much bigger than his own. Second thing he did was used a weapon that had a low possibility of death. These 2 points indicate that his motive was not to kill Zabuza but assistance him." The room was filled with a sense of dread. Not wanting to think that the man who was supposed to kill him was still alive, Tazuna said, "Oi! Aren't you thinking too much into this? Hunter. Nins are supposed to kill missing. Nins, right? What if you're just overthinking this?" As he looked at the floor in concern, Kakashi sighed and said, "I'm afraid we can't afford to take that possibility. No, with all this suspicion, we will need to prepare for what's coming. Not to mention, even if we are overthinking this, who's to say Gato won't hire an even stronger shinobi to face us? We have to be ready for all possibility." Sasuke grinned as he considered how to obtain instruction. Kurenai glanced bewilderedly at her Jonin counterpart. Kakashi gave a disapproving shake of his head when asked, "How do you propose we train? Should we train together? No, our teams have trained differently based on the way the teams were made. My team is a front-line assault team, while yours is a tracking and rescue. We both have different ways of training to get the maximal results. There are some things that I have yet to teach my team, while I have no doubt you've taught your team the genin basics. We will train separately. I would like it if we could have a team spar, though." Kurenai sighed but knew that his reasons were true. She refused to ask why he hadn't yet taught the fundamentals to his team. A boy wearing overalls and a fisherman's hat told the group, "You're all wasting your time." As Inari fought back tears that threatened to spill from his eyes, the boy's mother urged him, "Inari, don't say that to the people that's trying to help us." Everyone in the room flinched when the boy said, "They're just going to die. Just like that other guy that came with them, they don't stand a chance. He's a fool and died a fool's death." Hinata stood up and walked to the door where Inari was, clenching her fist in rage. Inari flinched as she passed him, suddenly fearing for his life. Hinata started to leave but stopped when she got to the stairs, saying, "We will succeed in freeing this land, Inari-san, whether you believe in us or not." With everyone's mouths hanging open, Hinata said, "I would also advise you not to say such things about Naruto-kun. If you say one more bad thing about him, then Gato won't be the only thing you have to worry about." "Hinata!" shouted Kurenai. She was shocked to learn that the timid girl she had grown to love would endanger someone. She interrupted Kurenai with, "I won't," before continuing. What she had to say was not something she wanted to hear. She had a few tears in her eyes as she turned to face the others in the room. She said, I won't believe he's dead. I won't have people talking bad about him either. Naruto-kun's alive. I can feel it." With sympathy on everyone's faces, she left the house. In an unidentified location as he and his 2 swordsman guards entered a treehouse, a fat man in a business suit exclaimed, well, look who came back. You have some nerve to come here after you're lost." At the slot he was given by the porky fucker Mana Zabuza remained silent and said, You call yourself a devil but yet you lost to a bunch of humans. Huh. Gata approached Zabuza and gave him a fierce look, believing him to be anything but menacing. Zabuza said nothing, which infuriated Gata even more. Listen here, I paid good money for you to kill the old man. I expected him dead, so why is he still alive? Gata reached for Zabuza's throat, but Haku blocked his path and grabbed his wrist. Haku crushed the fat man's wrist and caused him to scream in an unmanly manner. Don't you dare Zabuza.san with your filthy hands, he said. His two swordsmen immediately drew their weapons. Since their swords were in some way tokenized and held at their necks, ready and willing to draw blood, they were not carrying them for very long. No way. He moved so fast, a thug said, refusing to budge because he knew that one move would mean his death. When Gata had had enough, he leapt back. Gata yelled, all right. You get one more chance, fail again, and don't bother showing up again. And the two fled like the jerk that they are. After a few minutes of silence, Zabuza turned to face the boy. Haku grinned and nodded, saying, you didn't have to do that, you know. We must be patient, Zabuza. Sama. It's too early for you to kill Gata. If we cause a commotion now, they will be after us again. Zabuza nodded, understanding what he meant. Give a clap, give a clap, give a clap. Zabuza and Haku turned to see a woman emerge from the wall's shadows. The woman had an orange tan instead of being white. She had black hair with crimson streaks running down it, and she appeared to be around 5 feet 8 inches. To the frustration of Zabuza and Haku, she turned to face me while wearing fishnets from head to toe and a black trench coat hanging at her sides, obstructing a lot of assists. The boy blushed as the woman smiled and said, not bad kid. You have some speed on you. He had never witnessed her beauty before. And there was something strange about that smile. It was almost like a blood demand. Zabuza gave the woman a growl. Zabuza felt a chill go up his spine as the woman giggled darkly. Who are you? What do you want with me? You need to chill. Chuckles. Zabuza's eye twitches. Haku jumped to defend Zabuza as the woman's smile seemed to be leaking bloodlust from somewhere. Haku leapt to attack, but she was gone when he did. I'm only here to issue a warning. Haku looked around the room for something that didn't belong there. Zabuza searched the room for the attractive women. There was something strange about her. She slowly emerged from his shadow and wrapped her arms around his neck, echoing, what a cute little boy you are. Zabuza growled at her and said, Haku, you need to be careful. She's a Nara. She held a very long, very sharp, and very black looking claw at Haku's neck, making him tense, and the women laughed a blood-chilling laugh. The boy turned to face Zabuza as she turned to him. As a killing intent filled the room, she paused and said, now, Chuckles. If I wanted him dead. Haku gasped at the filling. Zabuza resisted, attempting to hide her fear. He had never experienced anything like this before. It felt so primal. A fang protruded from her lip, and her eyes turned a spooky yellow. He would already be at my feet, she said, her angelic voice growing abrasive and almost demonic. Her laughter reverberates throughout the treehouse. It made him think of a patient from an escaped mental ward. She stepped back a few paces and released Haku. The shadows gathered around her, and her eyes glowed yellow. As the darkness began to envelop her whole body, she remarked, I'm here on a warning from my partner. He wanted me to tell you to stay away from the bridge builder until the bridge is complete. I would hate to ruin your ambition by killing you. Zabuza shouted to her as he struggled to sit up. Wait, who are you? All that remained of the name was a giggle. It was too quiet to listen to. He cursed his frailty. This girl is stronger than he could have ever dreamed. He begged for the name while glaring at the shadows. When he turned to face Haku, he saw that he was frozen in that position. What is it, Haku? Haku gestured toward the rear wall. Slowly, he turned to see letters of blood on the wall. Something was spelled. At last, Haku managed to control his voice and uttered the name. Okami. 3 shadows darted up a tree as Kakashi watched. From a rock, he watched in silence as his team gasped on the ground. They haven't made much headway. As he considered Sakura's progress, Kakashi reflected, the only reason she has completed the exercise is because she doesn't have that much charka. Since the bell test, she has become stronger. Despite being harsh, Naruto's words had a significant impact on her. I have observed her. She has put a lot of effort into trying to disprove him. She's not worthless. That she could be useful. As Sakura began punching the tree in practice for her taijutsu, Kakashi thought, this only makes it hard on her seeing that he's dead, but from what I've seen she hasn't given up her drive. He scowled as he turned to face his other student, with Sasuke at his heels. Sai bounded up the tree. Kakashi gave the boy a narrowed look. I still have an issue with Sai. He is not someone I truly trust. There had to be a reason Danzo wanted him on our team. I'll have to watch him closely. Then Kakashi turned to his final pupil. Sasuke is the one who has progressed the least of all his students. He's been in a bad mood ever since Naruto passed away. Kakashi felt that they were more closely related than they actually were. When you consider it, it's not that shocking. They both share a lot of similarities. Both of them had extremely tragic pasts and are orphans. Pasts over which neither had any authority. It must have been difficult to accept Naruto's passing. He's even colder than usual now, more aloof. He no longer has the fire he once possessed. He no longer has the defiant gaze he had prior to the mission. His current state is almost depressing. He appears to require some encouragement. Without noticing the fire flare up in Sasuke's eyes, Kakashi said nonchalantly, "You know, I seem to recall Naruto could do this exercise in 2 days. I wonder how long it will take you." Kakashi had not seen a flame so intense in a long time. Sasuke's concentration seemed to leap as he sped past his marked point and reached halfway up the tree, and he couldn't help but smile. Now that he was being challenged, Sasuke grinned and was resolved to defeat him. Gazing up at the sky, Kakashi grinned, relieved that Naruto could still take on Sasuke despite his death. Alongside Team 8, not just Team 7 was putting in a lot of effort. Since their arrival, Team 8 has been assisting Tazuna with the bridge. They left sacks, assisted with moving girders, and performed all tasks that most people couldn't. Hinata made the decision to remain and protect Inari and Tsunami. Kiba and Shino decided to assist with the bridge. Tazuna turned to face the red-eyed woman who was watching over him. He was forced to frown at the situation he had put himself in. Kurenai turned to face the man and noticed the bags under his eyes. "Hey, Kurenai-san. Did Naruto have family back in the Leaf Village?" Kurenai asked. She has spent the last 2 days observing him. He hasn't been sleeping well, she realized. Nightmares, it seems. Kurenai thought, he seems to be dying of guilt. Tazuna had to wipe his eyes when Kurenai said, "No, Naruto-san has been alone to my knowledge." He sighed, and Kurenai shook her head, asking, "He didn't have any family? None at all? Don't be too hard on yourself, Tazuna-san. As ninja, we all know that we risk of dying on each and every mission. We are told that anyone can die on a mission. It hurts, but don't blame yourself. From what I understand, Naruto gave his life to protect you and his teammate. He didn't die without a purpose. He died like a true ninja. Like every ninja should." Kurenai replied with a sigh. Still feeling bad, Tazuna said, "Thank you." Tazuna jumped when Kurenai said, "But I must warn you. Your life may be in danger again once we leave." "What?" She looked at him in anticipation of his outburst. "Naruto. Sensei may come looking for you for answers. She may not say it out loud, but she thinks of Naruto as her little brother. He was the only family she has left. So just be careful, okay?" Kurenai said as she left, leaving Tazuna feeling unsure and guilty. In a clearing in the forest at the same moment, 2 people entered a clearing and came to a stop by a pond. There was a woman among the 2. Her hair was black with crimson streaks and orange. Tanned. As she approached a man who was somewhat shorter than her breasts jiggled. Wearing a white robe, he appears to be 5 feet 6 inches. His face appears to be hidden by a hood because nothing is visible from within. "Hiya!" exclaimed Okami, grinning at him. The man gave her a nod and laughed. Okami crossed her arms under her breasts once more, causing them to jiggle, and said, "Nay, where have you been in the past few days? I've been looking for you." Ignoring her antics, the robed man gazed out at the pond. Okami grinned at the man's smooth voice as he said, "Sorry, I had a few things to see in this town. I also trained a bit. Sorry I worried you." She draped her arms over the man's shoulders and threw herself on top of him. "Nay, I wasn't worried over you. I knew you would call me if you needed me. Whether it's killing a few people or helping you in a few other things," she replied with a seductive smirk. Playing her game, the man said, "In your dreams, I would never dangle anything of mine in front of your face. I might not get it back." The man sighed at her flirting but remained silent, saying, "You'll get it back. When I'm done with it. I've been studying the villagers. They lost all hope of being saved. They're too afraid of standing up to this god of person to fight for their freedom." The man spoke without any emotion. Okami picked her ear while glancing at him. The man nodded in complete agreement with her, saying, "So what? It's not like it's our problem. If they can't stand up for themselves, then they must not want to end this oppression." She looked at him while an anime-style question mark flew over her head, leaving him to wonder how she manages to do that. "Just what I was thinking. So we'll have to give them a little push in the right direction, but before that I need you to do something for me." I need you to take a trip to Gada's mansion. Once you're there, I need you to pick up 3 pieces of information. 1. I need you to find out if he's really gonna pay Zabuza. If we can cut him from the equation, then we can bring him to our side. The second thing I need you to figure out is Gada's bank account numbers and the combinations to his safe. It would be somewhere where he can keep an eye on it, so it should be around someplace in his office. Also, if you find any money, put it in these scrolls. The man responded by sealing the busty lady's parchment. Okami nodded, aware of her mission. The last thing I want you to do is to find out the information on the second ninja Gada hired. He could be a threat to our plans. She sees him taking off somewhere when she turns to face him again. The man paused and turned back to her, asking, "Hey wait, what are you gonna do since I'm doing all this?" From the shadows of his hood, you could almost see a smirk that resembled fangs. After saying, "Do what I do best," caused some confusion, he vanished as if he had never been there. She giggled and grinned at her partner. As she melted in the shadow of a tree, she told herself, "It's almost time to start this party. This should be fun." After 4 nights, the final night of sleep before the major battle is tonight. They were all aware of it. After completing his tree climbing, Sasuke began water walking but didn't make much progress. The 7th team was prepared for the next battle. The bridge was nearly finished with Team 8's assistance. The bridge will be finished in a few more feet. Now that Kakashi had full power, he was prepared to go. Everyone engaged in small talk during the final meal before the battle. Except, of course, for Inari. He gave the table a scowl. They simply failed to understand. They're laughing while they're going to die. Everyone's attention was drawn to him when he apparently lost it and slammed his hands down on the table. Why do you guys even bother? No matter how hard you train, you'll never be as strong as Gada's men. It doesn't matter what you say, when facing the strong, the weak will only end up being killed. Just like that other ninja. Inari screamed as tears streamed from his without knowing what to say. Everyone stared at the boy in silence and rage. Kiba scowled at the boy, disapproving of his demeanor. "Put a sock in it, kid. No one's dying here." This made the genin a little irate. "Shut up. I'd hate to be like you. You don't know anything about this country, yet you're being so nosy," Inari yelled. Sakura got up and made an effort to maintain order. "Inari, we're doing the best we can. No one asked you. Grandpa lied about the mission. You should have went back and minded your own business. You don't know anything about this country. You all are just clowning around acting so cheerful. You don't know how hard life can be, none of you do." He didn't even wait for a second answer and fled out of the house. With a sigh, Kakashi got to his feet. "I'll talk to him." On a pier outside with pity, Kakashi gazed at Inari, who was sitting on the pier's edge. Just as he was about to approach him and speak, he noticed something. Beside Inari stood a man in robes. Kakashi withdrew a kunai to determine whether the man was an ally or an enemy. With a dejected expression on his face, Inari gazes down at the water, gazing at his reflection. When he opened his eyes after slowly closing them, he saw a hooded man standing directly next to him. He turned to the man and winced. "I didn't hear him walk up," Inari says, almost screaming in terror at the man. Inari got up and glared at the man, asking, "Who are you?" The man looked down on him, and Inari could feel the disillusioned gaze. Inari winced as the man asked, "Is this how you chose to dishonor your father's memory?" He summoned the bravery to give the man a fierce glare and ask, "What do you know of my father?" With a shrug, the man turned back to face the sea. "You'll be surprised what you hear around town. The people here call you father a hero." Inari sat down on the pier again and said quietly, "He wasn't a hero. They don't know what the hell they're talking about." To Inari's chagrin, the man takes a seat beside him. Seeing no response from Inari, the man asked, "Are you saying that because he didn't free wave?" The man observed his response and asked, "Or that he died?" Inari's eyes began to well up with tears, but he remained silent. "You know, Inari, for the past few days I've wandered around the village. Talked to people and stayed with them, hearing their stories. I can't even count of the horror I've heard. Now, I know your story," the man said while directing Inari to look at him. "Out of all the lives in this village, you have it pretty good. Compared to most, you have a house to live in. You know when your next meal is. You know when you'll be able to sleep in a nice bed. Most people out there would kill for your life right now," the man said as Kakashi dropped from behind the wall. He was forced to agree. Wiping away his tears, Inari gazed down at the water. Under the robe, Inari noticed a tight smile. "You have so many things you take for granted, that many people wished they had again. Like a mother. You have a home to go home to, a mother who loves you and can take care of you. I've been all across Wave and the kids I've seen are living on the streets. They have no mother, no family at all. As Inari whipped his head up to the man, he said, "Inari, I can't understand what it's like to lose anyone since no one has ever been there for me." Despite his robe flapping in the wind, the man manages to keep his hood in place as he stands up. As ninjas, we live such short lives, much like that young ninja who gave his life for your grandfather. He died protecting his friend and your grandfather so that they both can continue their own. They knew about your grandfather's lies and knew that if he would have told the truth none of this death would have happened, but in the boy's honor they don't hate the man. They honor him in their memory, growing stronger each day. That boy's will is helping them get stronger just like your father's wants to help you get stronger. Inari looks up at the man as he rests his hand on the boy's forehead. He's been trying to help you get stronger for a long time now, but since you wallow in self-pity his bond to you is weak. Enough of the tears, Inari. It's time to let go of the pain in your heart and grow from it, and there's only one way to do that. The man continues by looking the boy in the eyes. He was aware that he required a bit more. Inari asked, holding on to the question as if it were a lifeline. "What is it? What do I need?" The man laughed. "You have to have hope, Inari. Hope that a new day will bring something grand. Hope that you're strong enough to protect your mother and grandfather. Those people in your house are doing everything they can for your county, even me." As the man giggles while stroking the boy's hair beneath his hat, Inari inquires, "You too?" "Yes, Inari, even me, but I need you to believe in me. Believe in all of us. We can win this, but we can't do it alone. You have to believe in yourself as well." For several minutes, Inari remained silent. He mulled over everything the man said. Really, it was funny. He was inspired to believe in a different future by this man. Agata. Free future. A free future. A future he had never imagined. He could practically taste the longing for that. "Okay. Thank you, Ni-san," Inari said, giving the man a hug that startled him for a moment but then reciprocated. Kakashi was standing there when Inari turned back to face the house. Being around the man made Kakashi feel calm, though he wasn't sure why. He didn't approach him just yet, and he wasn't sure why. As the wind began to pick up speed and swirl around the man, forcing Inari to shield his eyes, the man said, "Well, Inari, it seems it's time to go. Grow strong, lil one." In the event of an attack, Kakashi sprang into action and moved in front of Inari. Kakashi looked at the man who was about to lift his headband. The man's hood suddenly flew, almost in slow motion. His silver strain, like hair, blew in the wind, revealing a face in the moonlight as the hood flew back. His vivid purple eyes gleamed with splendor. A fang protruded from the man's mouth, illuminating his whiskered face as if he were grinning. Now, there was no question about this man's identity. Kakashi felt cold just thinking about this individual. Naruto. As soon as Kakashi uttered that name, Naruto abruptly disappeared from view, leaving a shocked Kakashi and an astonished Inari in his wake. Kakashi stood in awe. You could see his jaw drop to the ground if his mask was down. He was barely able to control his breathing because his body was in shock. How could that have happened? Naruto was alive, but how? Surely no one could withstand being torn to pieces. "Wow. Ni-san was so cool," Inari exclaimed, his eyes shining. Kakashi's thoughts were abruptly interrupted, and he turned to face Inari with a serious expression. Inari looked at him a little bewildered, but she saw that he was serious, so she nodded. "Inari, come with me back to the house. We have to have a little talk about your Ni-san." At the mansion of Gata behind his enormous desk, Gata asked, "Is everything ready?" Both grunts nodded and grinned. Gata smirked and leapt out of his chair, leaving his desk behind. "Yeah, everybody knows the plan. By this time tomorrow, Tazuna will die." Reaching for his cane, he made his way to the door. "Good. I'm bringing all of my guards to that damn bridge. If Zabuza doesn't kill that old bastard and his little ninjas, then we will. We'll even give him a fair shot and wait till after all of them are tired out. When they can't defend themselves, that's when we make our move," Gata said, laughing along with his grunts. As the short little pig and his two bodyguards left the room, a figure with yellow piercing eyes watched from the shadows. The figure leapt from the shadow to the paper-covered desk, which had an expressive computer seated in the center. She went to his computer and saw that the figure was Okami. The simple password that fat little piggy had made her laugh. She immediately started hacking his account after saying, "This is too easy. It's like taking candy from a baby." Returning to the house, Inari was still perplexed but smiling as Kakashi entered the house. The faces of the family were shocked by this. They haven't seen Inari smile like this in a long time. Tsunami turned to Kakashi to ask why. With seriousness, Kakashi said, "Tsunami, could you gather everyone for me? I need to speak to them." As she went upstairs, she gave a silent nod. It was not long before everyone was seated in Tezuna's living room. Kakashi leaned on a wall for support as he stood there. He appears to be thinking deeply, but he is unable to come up with a solution. Glancing at her fellow Jonin, Kurenai questioned, "Kakashi, what's all this about?" Kakashi rubbed his temples and sighed. Everyone was on edge except for Inari when Kakashi said, "Something happened when I went out to talk to Inari." When Tsunami learned that something might have happened to her child, she gave Inari a tighter hug. She would be destroyed if she lost him. Sasuke turned to face his masked sensei, who was interrogating him. Kakashi looked at Inari and asked him to explain, sighing, "What did you see?" Inari nodded while maintaining a bewildered expression. He started to share his story about the man in the hood. He shared all he had heard from his Ni-san with the throng. What this man had told the boy left everyone in awe. The young boy had been given hope by him in a matter of minutes. Since they arrived, everyone has been attempting to do this. The words the man told her son, "Thank you for giving the boy happiness," caused Tsunami and Tazuna to cry in silence. They expressed their sincere gratitude to the man for what they had done for their son or grandson. Since his father's passing, they believed the boy would never smile again. "Thank you." As the family wiped away their tears, they thought, "Thank you so much for everything." The Genins couldn't resist giving the boy a smile. The boy's smile was pleasing. When the Genins turned back to face Kakashi, they noticed that his expression remained unchanged. He was actually thinking to himself once more. Everyone began to sense that something more serious was happening at that point. Kakashi turned to face the Genin and said, "Kakashi. Sensei, what is it?" in a very low voice that seemed to emanate from the walls. "I believe the man Inari is talking about was Naruto." That statement causes everyone's eyes to widen. Hinata looked over at Kakashi. It seemed as though the name itself paralyzed her, preventing her from moving. "Is it possible? Is this a joke?" "It's not possible." Kiba screamed angrily. In agreement with his partner, Akamaru barked. Sakura's eyes begged Kakashi that this was not some sick joke as she turned to face him. Kakashi turned back to Inari after nodding. "Could you please explain the person you saw Inari-san?" The last thing Inari said made everyone cringe. He was a little taller than Shino-san. He had shoulder-length silver hair and had purple eyes with 3 whisker marks on his cheeks, Inari said, nodding. Naruto was undoubtedly that man. Unnoticed by everyone, Hinata's eyes were filled with silent tears. Thank heavens. Sakura was trembling with fear. Sakura said softly, her eyes welling with tears as she explained, "How? We saw his body. There was so much blood. There's no way he could have survived that. He can't be alive. We buried his body. How can he be alive? There's just no way." Kurenai turned to face her coworker. Kakashi shook his head negatively, asking, "Is it possible that another ninja got to Naruto's body first?" Kakashi said, drawing irate looks from the Genin, "I didn't want to tell you guys, but I made a shadow clone and had him burn Naruto's body." To her white-haired sensei, Sakura cried, "Why Kakashi? Sensei, he deserved a proper burial. I know that he was your friend, but it was for the best." Kakashi said, calming everyone but also arousing curiosity. "You have to understand, Sakura, Naruto, even as a Genin, had many guarded secrets. Powerful ones that could put not only the village but everyone who knew him in danger. We can't let other villages get their hands on it." As Kakashi sighed, Sasuke questioned, "What kind of secrets did the dope know? It can't be that dangerous." The Genins became even more intrigued when Kakashi said, "I'm sorry Sasuke, but you need to get permission from the Hokage himself if you want to know." Kurenai cast a worried glance at Kakashi. "Kakashi, you know how people feel about him." Kakashi appeared upset. "What if the hunter nins didn't come?" Kakashi pulled out a kunai and made a small cut on it, saying, "That's what I was thinking. There's one way to find out." Kakashi sighed and shouted, "I sent a letter to Hokage Sama explaining the situation after I burned Naruto's body, which is why Team 8 came to join the mission. Kachiyose no Jutsu. Summoning technique." A rough voice filled the room as Kakashi was covered in smoke. From the smoke, a small brown bulldog wearing a blue vest was vilified. As everyone recoiled at the dog's ability to speak, the pup said, "Kakashi, I've been waiting for you to summon me." As a greeting, Kakashi made his well-known eye smile. He turned his back on the group behind Kakashi and nodded, saying, "Sorry Pakun. But I'm ready to hear your report. Hokage. Sama is going to send a team behind you to help you finish the mission. He wishes you the best of luck. Also, he would like to say you did a very good job of getting rid of the body in time. There was nothing left. Not even a scent." Pakun said in a way that caused Kakashi to narrow. Kakashi said solemnly, "I see. Puckin nodded and disappeared into the smoke, saying, "Thank you for telling me. You're free to go." Kurenai's expression was conflicted as she turned to face her Jonin. Kakashi nodded. "Kakashi, that doesn't sound good." Tazuna gazed in awe at the solemnly Jonins. Tsunami and Inari nodded in equal bewilderment, saying, "I don't get it, the dog said the Naruto had no scent. What does that matter? Every body has a distinct scent that they have gathered throughout their life. Everything you've been around has given you a scent. Your scent stays with you for the rest of your life. Even when you die." Shino stated that this was the first time the family met them. Kiba entered the conversation by saying, "He's right. For someone who doesn't have a scent means they washed the scent away or..." Hinata concluded by saying, "They never were even there." The idea that Naruto was never present made everyone shudder. He was almost like a ghost. This also points out two possibilities. 1. Naruto's body has been taken and the people that took him washed the blood away. 2. Naruto planned all of it. His death, he foresaw the attack, he planned everything from the beginning. I really wouldn't put it past him. He's known to think ahead," Kakashi said as Kurenai raised his brow at his declaration. Kakashi turned to his fellow Jonin and leaned back against the wall, asking, "Why would you say that?" "I've been with Naruto for the better part of his shinobi training. I've helped him develop moves that will most likely at a time be put against my team. I've learned a lot about Naruto's personality. Naruto is calm and ready at every given moment. He thinks 10 steps ahead at all times. He treats every situation like a game of chess. It wouldn't surprise me that he's doing this. As to why, I'm sorry but I can't answer that." Kakashi expressed the hope that Naruto is still alive. As everyone nodded in agreement, Kakashi explained, "Listen, we know that he's here. Unfortunately, it's pointless looking for him. Naruto is very good with stealth, he's not one to be found easily." The family watched in disbelief as the group reached its conclusions. Tazuna was grinning at the situation at hand. It's possible that the runt is still alive and assisting us. As he returned to his sake, Tazuna thought to himself, "I really hope he's alive, because with all this hope going around, I really don't want to lose it." Early in the morning, Naruto, who has now been revealed, is seen washing his face in a stream. A gentle wind blew through his silver hair. Animals were wandering around and birds were singing on this calm morning. It has an end, of course, just like everything good. Naruto let out a sigh as his own shadow turned black. Out of the shadow, a humanoid figure wrapped its arms around him. "Nay, Okami. Chan, was there a reason for the entrance?" Naruto chuckled lightly at Okami's response, which included a menacing smirk. "You know how I like to impress people. Okami's movements have always been flamboyant. I finished what you asked me to do. They're going to attack today. What do you want to do?" Okami replied with seriousness. Naruto's purple eyes changed from serene to piercing and resolute. "I see." Naruto sighed as he felt Okami get tighter around his neck. He's going to attack when Zabuza tires everyone out if they are killed. He's bringing every one of his guards to the bridge. He's ending it today. Naruto turned to her and asked, "Do you have the information?" With purple eyes, she handed him a scroll and nodded. Naruto picked up the scroll and glanced at it. He then placed the scroll in one of his pockets after finishing it. Okami gave him a perplexed look and said, "Good job. Your mission is complete, but I have a favor to ask you." She pouted when Naruto explained the plan because she wouldn't be receiving any blood. Her smile and nod said, "Don't worry, Okami. I'll make sure you get to have your fun." As she disappeared into the darkness, Okami threatened, "Good. You better. I'll do as you ask, but I better get my blood or I'll take yours instead." When she threatened, Naruto laughed. He was aware that she could and would use his body as a vent for her annoyance. But he didn't give a damn. She had a job to do for the time being, but she would soon receive her blood. Naruto took a few steps toward the bridge before abruptly stopping, saying, "There's no point in waiting around. I better make my way to the bridge." He stared straight ahead, his face turning to stone. Naruto's purple eyes narrowed, and he said, "I'll give you some credit. You actually thought you had what it takes to sneak up on me." Naruto yelled, "Why don't you come out of hiding and I promise you'll get a painless death." A figure leapt down from the trees. A green-haired man with 3 lines in the center of a handband on his head. He was dressed in an ankle-length black shinobi sandal and a sleeveless jumpsuit. Even though he appeared rather unassuming to Naruto, he maintained his composure. The man smirked at the young person with silver hair and said, "Not bad, kid. How did you know? I always knew you were there. You should really start using soap. I could smell you ever since the Demon Brothers. You can't hide from my nose." Naruto responded with a fanged smirk, shocking the man as he thumbed the tip of his nose. "Surprised? I was too. I knew you were there as soon as we left with the old man. I kept wondering when you were going to attack. When the demon brothers attacked, I thought that you would attack with them, but you didn't. My guess is that Kakashi was too tough for you, right? Naruto said softly as the man growled at our heroes. Naruto's fanged smirk evolved into a broad smile. Now, I was only stating the truth. The truth of the matter was that you were afraid. You knew you couldn't win against Kakashi. Sensei. You ran like the coward you are. How dare you? You little shit, do you know who I am? I'm Aoi Rokusha. The master of Raijin no Ken. No third-rate shinobi can compare to me. Naruto painted on the man, causing his face to flush. If it's possible, Naruto's smile widened slightly. Well, now it's great to know the man I've been searching for has a name. How pleasant. What? Aoi's expression changed again, and Naruto gave a deep, ominous laugh that made Aoi shudder. You should feel honored. I faked my death for 2 reasons, and one of those reasons is for you. When the demon brothers attacked, I knew that you would attack, but for some strange reason you never did. So at the first opportunity I used the jutsu I've been working on for quite a while. Kai Bunshin, blood clone. Aoi commanded. Kai Bunshin? What the fuck is that? Kai Bunshin is a clone made from my blood. It eats, breathes, and even does jutsus. It's the ultimate clone. The only thing that can destroy it is death, Naruto said, laughing as he looked down at Aoi. Obviously, that isn't all. In addition to taking half of your charka, the Kai Bunshin requires at least 1 pint of blood. Without a doubt, this is a prohibited jutsu. With the clone's job complete and Kakashi destroyed the fake me, I sought it to track you down. I followed your scent to Zabuza's hideout. That's where I watched you from your hiding place telling Gato that I won was dead. Let me guess this made him feel all snuggly. Naruto laughed. As his story progressed, Aoi became less confident and asked, then why didn't you attack when we left? It's because of you. You were an unknown. I could have easily killed Gato and his guards, but I couldn't do it without knowing about you. So I let you go and told my partner to gather information on all of you. That's right, all of you. Zabuza, Haku, all of you. Naruto said after Okami gave him the scroll. With a worried yet irate expression on Aoi's face, Naruto mockingly remarked, this scroll told me everyone about you. Your skills, where you came from, and I can honestly say that I'm not impressed. I see. So your partner gathered information on me, but what about you? What have you been doing while she was doing all the important stuff? Aoi replied as she circled Naruto. A chuckle escaped Naruto's lips, but his gaze never left him. Oh, me? I was learning a lot about this town and its tyrant. Thanks to some bandits that Gato hired, I learned of a number of attempts at Gato at the bridge. So I did my teammates a favor and shortened the load of work for them. That was you. You little shit, exclaimed Aoi, exasperated. He was tasked by Gato to discover who was murdering all of his men. That short little pig deducted money from his pay each time he returned empty-handed. Aoi was furious, but like all Jonin, he made an effort to control his temper. Aoi took a step toward our serene hero and said, not bad, kid. You've done well to get so far, but I'm afraid that you've made one big mistake. You brought me out of hiding. Naruto grinned and shook his head. Aoi threw back his head and laughed boastfully, saying, if you think I'm afraid of you, then you're horribly mistaken. I brought you out of hiding because you're not a threat to my plans. I had you by the balls and you didn't even know it. Aoi stood with a self-assured smile on his lips and exclaimed, yeah right, kid. I'm a Jonin. I have the most powerful sword ever created, used by the Nidaime Hokage. You may know about me, but you can't compare to me. A tiny chuckle that quickly developed into a menacing laugh replaced Naruto's smile. Aoi felt Naruto's flood of murderous intent as he watched the child, perspiration streaming down his brow. Aoi recoiled in terror. He nearly fell to his knees from the strength of the ki. Unreal, Aoi thought as his breathing became labored. What? Are you? Aoi asked, breathing heavily. Naruto's ki was slowly rising as he scowled at Aoi, and his laughter subsided. Darkly vanishing from Aoi's view, Naruto declared, I am the animal hiding from his prey. Aoi turned his head to his left and saw Naruto vanish again, saying, I am the beast that you can't escape from. I am the monster that haunts your dreams. I am the beast under your bed. I am the ghost in the dark. Every time Naruto spoke, Aoi freaked out and vanished before she could react. It was frightening him. His gaze was flitting from left to right in an attempt to locate the frightful young man with silver hair. A voice from the trees said, I am the phantom that you can't catch. Aoi kept an eye on the trees to see if they moved at all. Then he heard those bone-chilling words, and suddenly he felt hot air on his neck. I am your death. On the bridge, WH. What's this? Tazuna exclaimed, sprinting to his fallen employee. Shaking the man, Tazuna demanded, "Hey, tell me what happened." The wounded man opened his eyes feebly and said, "Eh, demon." The man's assertion caused Kurenai and Kakashi to narrow their eyes. Is it possible? As a dense fog rolled in, Kakashi received his response. Kakashi shouted, "Here they come," as Tazuna was surrounded by teams 7 and 8. In an attempt to locate the missing nin, Kurenai searched the fog. Kakashi nodded and said, "Yeah, and he's here. So he's alive." Zabuza said through the fog, "Good observation. Long time no see, Kakashi." Zabuza told Sasuke, "I see you're still with those brats." He's still shaking, poor brat. 6 Zabuza suddenly surrounded the group, one in the center, their swords ready to kill. "That's where you're wrong. I'm shaking from excitement," smirked Sasuke. "Do it, Sasuke." The Zabuzas that surrounded them suddenly exploded into watery pools. With 2 kunais in his hands, Sasuke emerged in the center of the group. From the opposite end of the bridge, Zabuza exclaimed, well, the brat saw through the clones. Not bad." Gazing down at the hunter. "Mask wearing boy," Zabuza remarked, "You seem to have a rival, Haku. It seems so." Sakura acknowledged, "You were right, Kakashi. Sensei. They're working together." Sasuke took a position in front of everyone. Kakashi nodded, and Sasuke replied, "I'll fight him." He stepped up too, and Kiba got a tick in his brow for being overlooked. It was surprising to see Sai nod in agreement. "Me too. You're not getting all the fun." Sasuke nodded but gave a disapproving grunt. "Fine. Just don't get in the way." Returning to the house. "No, Mom." Inari yelled at his mother, who was now in captivity. Now, Tsunami's hair is being pulled away by the same guards who protect Gata. The larger of the two yelled at the woman, "Come on, bitch. We can make this a lot easier if you would just walk." While his mother was being carried away, Inari watched in silence. "Damn it, I'm scared and I couldn't do anything. How can I help?" With a vile glare at the ground, Inari thought, "I'm just a kid." In the boy's honor, they don't despise your grandfather despite knowing that he lied and that none of this death would have occurred if he had spoken the truth. They continue to remember him, becoming more powerful every day. In the same way that your father wants to help you get stronger, that boy's will is helping them get stronger. As the tears in his eyes dried up, Inari told himself, "I don't want to be weak." He recalled what Naruto had said. "Inari, you must have hope. I'm hoping that tomorrow will bring something amazing. I hope you have the strength to keep your grandfather and mother safe. Everyone in your home, including myself, is doing everything they can for your county. Naruto. Have faith in us all. This is something we can win, but not by ourselves. You must also have faith in yourself." Inari's resolve reached new heights as he thought, "Ni-san. Thank you, Mom, I'll save you. I have faith in myself." Inari screamed, "Get away from my mom," and charged the 2 thugs. The largest one unsheathed his sword and grinned broadly. Tsunami cried out, "No," as the brute swung his sword at the boy. Clank. Looking at his sword, the brute stood there looking shocked. Standing in front of Inari, Okami gripped the sword in her bare hands, which appeared to be covered in black scales. The large man tried to tear his sword from Okami's grasp, but it held firm, and he exclaimed, "What the hell?" The men shouted, "Bitch, let go," as Okami shattered the sword like a toothpick. The stranger snapped the sword, and Inari watched in wonder. Whoa. The little man tore his sword from its sheath and flung Tsunami to the ground, and held it menacingly in front of Okami. The big guy cracked his knuckles and said, "Bitch, you just made the worst mistake in your life." He wasn't even bothered that she broke his sword like a twig. Okami gazed at the pair of foolish men. Who wouldn't, after all? They believe they can win because she just caught and snapped a sword without getting scratched. The poor, the weak-minded idiots. As Okami held up her armored hand with claws that seemed to be growing, she said nonchalantly, "2 idiots are no fun to kill. But I have no choice, I suppose." As her black and red claws fully developed, the guards looked on in terror. With a smile that would have scared Anko, Okami turned to face the large one. The man saw her and nothing else, but he had no idea what had happened. In contrast, the younger man witnessed everything. He watched as Okami vanished from view. To his horror, he witnessed Okami standing behind the man and his partner's body slipping away from its original positions. All he was a heap of flesh on the floor. The younger one fled from the woman, screaming in terror. As the man fled into the woods, leaving the family there trembling in fear, Okami simply retreated into her shadow. The man needed to flee, hurry as quickly as he can. He had to avoid being caught by her. Nothing was visible when he turned to look behind him. He moved behind a tree to catch his breath. It wasn't until it was too late that he realized he was gradually fading into his own shadow. Alongside the family there appeared to be a pause in the forest. It was very quiet. UGHAHHHHHHH. The family clung to one another from fear of becoming the next victim. The voice behind the trembling pair said, "Hey kid." They looked in the direction of the heavily bloodied Okami. She appeared to be covered in it. It's not hers. He was too scared to flee. His thoughts kept returning to Naruto's words. He got up and faced his mother, which caused Okami to grin. Okami put a shocked expression on the child's face and said, "I like you kid. You got balls. Naruto sent me here and told me to tell you good job. He knew you would do what was right." She completed her task. She sank into her shadow gradually. "Hey wait. Where is he? I want to thank him." Inari yelled at her as he jolted out of his reverie. "He's at the bridge. We know Gata is going to attack today. We are going to be fighting an army. See ya kid." Okami's voice reverberated throughout the forest, and then there was a hush. Alongside Naruto landed on a tree branch after avoiding another Raijin swipe. Naruto gave the weary Jonin a sly smile. He was panting heavily. They haven't been engaged in combat for very long. Despite his extreme fatigue, Naruto appeared youthful. Naruto sighed and remarked, "Okay, this is getting monotonous, and I'm sick of staring at your face." He wasn't even interested in the fight, based on the tone of his voice. "Oh no. A genin can't be him. One cannot be this strong." As he swung his sword again, Aoi thought, "I missed our little hero." Aoi drew two kunais and hurled them towards Naruto. When Naruto noticed the projectiles, he leapt to stay clear. "I got you." As he launched another kunai at the flying Naruto, Aoi pondered. Aoi was alarmed when Naruto smirked and appeared to jump once more. After landing on a tree branch, Naruto exclaimed, "How? Futon. Jeppu, wind style, moonwalk." "What the fuck is that?" exclaimed Aoi, furiously. With a sly grin, Naruto said, "Sorry, I can't tell you all my secrets." This infuriated Aoi. Naruto snapped his fingers and sent a blast of condensed wind to Aoi, shouting, "And speaking of secrets, here's another one. Futon. Kizakuji." Aoi was slammed into a tree, proving that he had not anticipated it. Grabbing his umbrella and throwing it into the air, Aoi sat up in agony. Aoi shouted, "Take this. Joro Senbon." Raining needles from heaven. As poison Senbons scurried in Naruto's direction. "Shunpo," Naruto mused to himself as he vanished behind another tree. Naruto looks down on the shabby Jonin. With a chilly expression in his eyes, Naruto said, "This is just sad. You spent all your time relying on that sword that you negated all of your other abilities. You don't even pose as an annoyance to me. Worthless." Aoi was furious with Naruto. "How am I losing?" Aoi said to our hero, "I have the ultimate sword. It was made by the gods, and I should be wiping the floor with you. I can't believe this. It's impossible." Naruto merely gave a disapproving shake of his head. "You fool. You think holding that sword makes you a god? You think you have ultimate power just because you swing a sword around when you don't even know how to properly use it? You fool. You swing the sword when you have no skill or practice in how to use it. It's over Aoi. You can't win." Aoi met Naruto's purple, sarcastic eyes. Their laughter pierced his soul. At his abilities, at his expertise, and above all, at his pride. "No, I'm not going to be fooled." Aoi screamed, "I will not be made into a fool," while he was pursuing Naruto and leaping from tree to tree while brandishing his lightning blade. Naruto pulled on a concealed wire, dodged, and sealed his hand. Aoi was stuck to a tree branch when he attempted to follow. "What the?" Naruto shouted, "Fuin. Butemware, stick to me seal," as he discarded the cables. "What the? What did you do?" "You walked into my trap. It wasn't a coincidence that you came to this clearing. Like I said before, I knew all about you from the very start. I made traps to help get this going. The trap you landed in is called Fuin. Butemware. Those wires I was using rubbed out the tags that activated the trap under the tree branch, making a charcoal-like glue that is sticking you to the branch." Aoi yelled, "Damn you!" In an attempt to escape. With a snap of his fingers, Naruto sent Aoi a gust of wind. For once, Aoi's foresight prevented the Raijin in front of him from taking the hit. Aoi asserted, "You won't get past my guard." Naruto complied despite the stupid Jonin's HMPT. Fuden. Repusho. Gale Wind Palm. Naruto clapped his hands and threw them out, sending a gust of wind toward Aoi. "Well, let's see," he exclaimed. Again, Aoi extended his sword to absorb the blow. Unbeknownst to Aoi, the sword developed a tiny crack, Naruto grinned upon learning that. He had no time to catch his breath as Naruto launched a barrage of Kizakuji at the crack, which widened with each blow, making Aoi pay attention. He is aware of the crack. To draw that sword, I'll need a lot of jutsu. Maybe Rankuden will work. However, I haven't done it in a long time. Naruto thought. I have no other option, I have to reach the bridge. He made 6 hand seals and inhaled deeply, causing his stomach to grow. Without any delay, he slammed his fist into it and yelled, Fuden. Rankuden, drilling air projectile, directing a massive condensed air bullet towards Aoi. His sword faltered, but Aoi remained firm. The sword snapped under its weight and cracked under the force of the windball. Aoi dropped the shattered sword in awe. With his head lowered in desperation, Aoi uttered, I can't believe it. The Raijin is the ultimate sword. It can cut through pure charka. How did it break? In front of the downed Jonin, Naruto leapt on a tree branch. With a face devoid of emotion, Naruto remarked, You fool. It's just a sword. A tool to use in battle like a kunai or shuriken. You wasted a lot of charka on that thing, that's why you lost. Naruto squinted at the man, saying, What? The Raijin doesn't require any charka. Aoi was clearly suffering from charka exhaustion because he was breathing heavily. Naruto said, vanishing from Aoi's line of sight, it doesn't matter. I've won this battle. The Raijin protruding from his chest was the last thing Aoi saw. The final sound Aoi heard before he hit the floor below was, checkmate. With a calculating look, Naruto dropped to the ground and picked up the Raijin. A lightning sword emerged from the handle when Naruto pumped some charka into it. Charka is the only one who can respond to the charka shard that is deep within the sword. This sword can be broken, but it will rebuild itself once your charka is full. Naruto gazed blankly down at the dead Jonin. As he used the sword to cancel the charka, Naruto thought, shame, I can't keep this. Okami jumped on his shoulders before he had much time to think about it. Okami teased, Nay, you still fighting? You must be getting soft if it took you this long. Naruto scowled at the disparagement of his skills. HMPT, I was toying with him. Sorry it took so long. When you have Anko as a sensei as well as the strongest Biju in your gut, it deals to leave a more sadistic side of you. Naruto said while putting the charka saber. Turning to face her, Naruto put on a serious front. Okami nodded in agreement and asked, Did you do what I asked? Yeah, he got the message. I followed him for a while. He and the whole town are on their way to the bridge ready to defend it. With a smile on his face, Naruto nodded. As she sank into Naruto's shadow, Okami grinned bloodily, saying, Good. Then we shouldn't keep them waiting. Alongside teams 7 and 8 clang. The bridge was illuminated by the sound of battle. Haku ran to Sasuke, and Sasuke ran to him. It appeared that they were tied when they clashed. Haku said gravely, I don't want to kill you, but you won't step down, will you? The question gave Sasuke a sly smile. Kiba and Sai charged at Haku, and Sasuke remarked, Don't be stupid. I have 2 advantages. Haku performed 1-handed seals and slammed his foot into the ground. Sensatsu Suisha, 1,000 flying water needles of death. Haku shouted, hurling thousands of water needles at the 3. Really, so do I. As Haku blacked out and flipped away, they swore and leapt to avoid the jutsu that was sending her shurikens. You're pretty slow, Kiba remarked as he attempted to backhand Haku. Haku dodged and inked. Made Tiger that was rushing at him after blocking the blow. Sadly, Sasuke gave Haku a foot to the face, sending him flying back. Standing next to Kiba and Sasuke, Sai said blankly, It seems that we have the advantage. Hell yeah. Good job. Sakura shouted at the trio. Kiba arrogantly thumbed his nose. Hey, he's not so tough. Sasuke simply grinned. Hinata gave the 3 a smile. Hinata believed they could win, but Shino and Sai disagreed, saying, They make a good team. Shino's voice echoed throughout the bridge, It isn't over yet. A blue aura enveloped Haku, and the boys turned back to him. What's this chill about? Everyone but Zabuza and Haku pondered. Zabuza laughed when he sensed Haku's enthusiasm. To avoid Kakashi and Kurenai's next kunai, he leapt back into the mist. As the mist grew thicker, Zabuza said, It seems Haku is starting to get serious. This made the Jonin tense. As the boys prepared, Haku bowed his head. Then, as the water rapidly turned to ice around the boys, he made an odd hand seal. The boys gazed at the mirrors, unsure and perplexed. Unaware of their purpose, the boys prepared for anything. Haku approached a mirror slowly before stepping into it. Hidden Jutsu. Crystal Ice Mirrors. Makaya Hayasha. What the devil? As Haku's image filled every mirror, Kiba asked, pulling out a kunai and holding it in front of him. With Hinata, Shino, and Sakura. What's happening? As he listened anxiously to the genin and jonin sounds of battle, Tazuna said, I can't see a thing. Shino turned to Hinata and looked at her. Being on a team with him had made Hinata understand the human hive. Without wasting any time, Hinata activated her bloodline. Byakugan. Veins appeared around her eyes as she peered into the mist. So that's the Byakugan. I read about that. The Byakugan is supposed to be able to see through anything. It's able to see in a full 360 view, Sakura said, turning to face Hinata and searching her eyes. Can you explain what's happening, Hinata? It looks like everyone is okay, but... Hinata stammered as everyone turned to face her. But what, Hinata? Sakura asked, and Hinata nodded. There's some kind of strange energy where Kiba.kun, Sai.san, and Sasuke.san are. Hinata reviewed as Sakura tightened her grip on a kunai. Shino asked as silence fell over the group. Is there anything else you see? Sakura asked, wanting to know more. Hinata shook her head in a negative fashion. No, I'm sorry, but it's out of my range. Hinata broke down in tears. Shino rationally interrupted the conversation by saying, Don't worry about it, Hinata, just warn us when Zabuza is on his way. Alongside the boys, after just a few minutes, they were all on the ground, exhausted and covered in blood. Blood was caked on their tattered clothing. After sitting up, Kiba attempted to shake Akamaru awake, but his body refused to cooperate. Kiba dragged himself slowly to a mirror and yelled, Damn it, these senbons. Take this. Saw. Ga. Passing Fang. Kiba shouted at a mirror while spinning in a cyclone. Sasuke observed Kiba strike the mirror without causing any harm. Kiba rolled on the ground, exhausted, his attack fading. Sai also got up and drew a bird, but Haku destroyed it with a splash of ink before he could take off. Sasuke felt his charka departing him and made a few hand seals. He never took his eyes off Haku. He seemed to be able to see him. Kiba launched another attack, leaping at a mirror and clenching his fist. As Haku emerged from the mirror and swung a senbon at Kiba, Sasuke witnessed everything. He was aware that this was his opportunity. As a ring of fire passed in front of his lips, Sasuke screamed, Kaden. Ga Kakia. No Jutsu. Fire release. Great fireball technique. And sent a massive fireball at Haku. Sasuke grinned when Haku managed to avoid only getting his pants leg singe. Haku saw Sasuke's eyes and gave him a scowl. Uchiha. I was right, the Sharingan. At last, Sasuke has acquired his ancestry, Sharingan. As Sasuke picked up two kunais and held them in front of him, he thought, I can see. Haku grasped a fistful of senbons and thought, I have to end this now. Haku sent a wave of lethal metal to the group, saying, I'm sorry, but I have to end this. Even with the Sharingan, Sasuke was aware that he couldn't avoid every senbon. Is this it? As the shower of death drew near, the group pondered. A recognizable voice yelled, Fuden. Daitopa. Great breakthrough, as a gust of wind blew the mist and senbons away, causing everyone to cover their eyes. The voice repeated, Sorry we were late. I had some unfinished business to attend to. At the sound of the voice, Hinata's heart almost exploded. The voice she hears in her dreams every day. When she opened her eyes, she saw two hooded individuals. Is it possible? When the tallest of the figures took off her hood, shocking everyone, Zabuza opened his eyes and gazed at them. It's you, Zabuza exclaimed, gesturing to the girl with a hint of alarm. He was aware that he would lose instantly if her partner was anything like her. Zabuza said, holding his sword in a death grip, Okami. As Kurenai made a few hand seals to protect the strange girl from attack. Kakashi questioned, Friend of yours? No, she actually told us to stay away from you lot. If I didn't know any better, I would say that she and her partner is on your side. Zabuza replied while staring at the two. Kurenai gazed at both of them, but mostly at the shorter one. At that declaration, you could practically see Naruto smirking from behind the hood. I would hope so, right? Naruto. Naruto took off his hood to reveal his purple eyes and long silver hair, saying, Good, you all caught on. He glanced over at Hinata after hearing a gasp behind him. With a great sense of relief, he saw tears in her eyes. Hello Hinata. Chan. Sorry I made you worry. Naruto said, his voice reserved for her, softly and with a great deal of care. Unable to control herself, Hinata rushed to Naruto and gave him a strong hug. Hinata dampened Naruto's cloak and said, Naruto.kun. I knew you were alive. Sasuke gazed in amazement at the two. With a hint of joy in his voice, Sasuke uttered, N. Naruto. He really is alive. It's one thing to say he's alive, but it's another thing to actually see it with your own eyes. Naruto. Naruto smirked and said, Sasuke, take a break, as Sasuke called out, forcing him to turn to face him. Bring the Kiba and Sai over here and turn off your Sharingan. Naruto smirked with pride as he went off to get the other guys after telling Sasuke, the battle is over, about his newly acquired Sharingan. Brat, what did you say? Chill out, Chuckles, Zabuza said, demanding to hold his sword in front of him. Zabuza became enraged with Okami after she said, that's battle's over. Bitch. Haku awoke from his daze and teleported to Zabuza with senbons ready, saying threateningly, don't come near Zabuza. Sama. Kakashi and Kurenai moved in front of Naruto and Okami, ready to defend him. As long as I'm alive, the battle will still continue. Naruto ignored him as he and Okami walked over to Zabuza. With his Sharingan eye fixed on Zabuza, Kakashi said, not that I'm not glad to see you, Naruto, but I have to ask you to step back, we still have a battle to do. Everyone tensed, anticipating more combat. Enough. This is over, as I stated. I need your trust, Kakashi. Sensei and Kurenai. Sensei. Let my friend and I handle everything. While waiting for a response, Naruto turned to face Kakashi and said, I assure you that the battle is over. Just this once. Kakashi wanted to say no so badly because he didn't want to lose his sensei's son again after losing him once, but something in Naruto's eyes told him that it would be alright. Alright. Don't die out there, please. Kakashi said seriously. Naruto nodded and turned to Zabuza and Haku. Zabuza, regretfully, your brief arrangement with Gata is now over. When Naruto pointed to the end of the bridge and said, look for yourself, everyone turned to see Gata standing there, looking incredibly arrogant, with hundreds of bandits behind him. Alright, so what are we dealing with here? Zabuza growled at the chubby little man. I gave you a mission to kill the bridge builder and you can't even get that right. What are you doing here, Gata? Zabuza asked, gaining a clear understanding of his motivation. You honestly thought I would pay you? Gata said, drawing everyone's attention with a slam of his cane against the concrete bridge. The cost of your missing nins is excessive. As the bandits raised their swords in agreement, Gata remarked, why hire you when I could hire all of them for the same price? Hey, I got the fat fuck, said Okami, unnoticed as she sank into Naruto's shadow, and Naruto's laugh reverberated across the bridge as he stood in front of Zabuza. You simply react. Your money will be returned. Naruto walked casually toward Gata and his thugs and said, I promise it. Naruto was standing in front of Gata, who grinned and said, come to die, kid. Nice move, Naruto said, laughing at the pig. Gata, tell me what I'm trained in. Naruto didn't hold out for an answer. Team 8 is a tracking team, and Team 7 is an assault team. In contrast, I am something uncommon. Naruto proudly declared, I am an assassin. Gata chuckled at the apparent joke Naruto was playing on him. Whatever, child. As several bandits charged at him, Gata remarked, someone kill the fucker, we have better things to do than listen to him. Look out, Naruto. Sakura shouted, Kun Naruto. With her loudest voice ever, Hinata yelled. You should really use your manners, Gata, it's impolite to interrupt someone when they're talking. Naruto smirked, vanished with his signature move, and reappeared behind the group that had charged him. The group that had attacked him had suffered severe cuts to their necks as they fell to the ground. At that show of strength, Gata stopped smiling. He flinched at the expression in Naruto's eyes, thinking, his eyes. They're so cold, so controlled. The kid wasn't playing. He really is an assassin. Gata stepped back. Although Kurenai was impressed by Naruto's speed, he was also a little alarmed by his disregard for the lives of the people, asking, how can he kill them and not care? This is his first kill, right? Kurenai inquired. No, Naruto informed me that he was forced to kill numerous creatures in the Forest of Death by Anko. Even though it wasn't a human life, it was still a life. Impressed, Kakashi remarked, I'm amazed at how quickly his Shunpo has improved. Shunpo? That was faster than anything Haku could do, Zabuza asked himself thoughtfully. Shunpo, Futon. Kakashi gave a brief and condensed explanation of the jutsu, saying, it's a movement jutsu that allows the user to move faster than the eye can follow. There's no need to reveal all the specifics to a missing nin. Whoa, that's fast, said Sasuke and the others as they watched in wonder as Naruto vanquished the bandits. Sasuke was cursing himself for not wearing his Sharingan, saying, that jutsu. It's ridiculously fast. I must have it. Kiba, who could freely admit that he was really disturbed because he had never seen death before, said, I couldn't even see it, as he watched Naruto murder the men. Even though he was killing people, Hinata was proud of her jutsu and stood watching with pride, saying, Naruto-kun, you're so strong. See, I don't give a damn who does it, now kill this jerk. I pay twice as much. That got many of the bandits' attention. Double? Oh my god. As they charged Naruto, one bandit uttered those words. The bandits halted after Naruto grinned and asked, "And how do you plan to do that when you have no money? What do you mean he doesn't have any money?" As they turned to face Gata angrily, the same bandit said, "Have you been fucking with us, Gata?" The pig gave a disapproving shake of his head. "How dare you? I'm extremely wealthy." Naruto laughed as Gata yelled. After that, Naruto reached inside his cloak, took out a scroll, and began reading it aloud. "I, Gata, hereby turn over to my successor Uzumaki Naruto all of my corporations, companies, and all of my money that I have acquired throughout my life if any event that I killed." Naruto held the scroll up for the man to see and said, "Signed Gata." "What the fuck? I never approved of that," the man uttered angrily. "I also never signed for that." As the man screamed in rage, Naruto yelled, "You didn't have to. I copied your sloppy little handwriting to the scroll after studying it. Nobody is going to notice the difference. Assassins often have allies hiding in the shadows, as you can see." Sasuke turned on his Sharingan just in case, and Naruto said, "For example," as his own shadow began to spread across the bridge, leaving everyone wondering what jutsu he was going to use. Haku and Zabuza flinched at the familiar voice, which said, "Ah Naruto-kun, you kept your promise." "Okami," Zabuza said in a tone of concealed fear. A giant black hand covered in scales sprang up and grabbed the man and drug him down into the shadows before the man could finish, saying, "What the hell is a shadow gonna?" "No. Oh." The man screamed from the shadows until the field was silent. The spot where the man had been drugged down now had a bright red patch on it that looked a lot like blood. At that point, everything went topsy-turvy. Chains made of shadows grabbed hold of the poor bandits and Gata himself, and many people began to sink into the shadows while others were impaled by the chains. The villagers came to as they saw the bandits' screams tearing through the darkness. Gata was all that remained, shackled, in the center of the bloody shadow, trembling like a leaf, and the brown stain on the back of his pants told Naruto that he couldn't control his bowels. The pool of blood grew inch by inch with each dead body. "Gata, how does it feel? You have robbed this land of its hope," Naruto said in a chilly tone that made Gata realize he was serious. "You now feel exactly like what these villagers feel every day. You have taken the lives of decent, hard-working people. You have destroyed their families' finances and stolen theirs. These people's minds are haunted by you, a monster." Naruto pointed to the throng of villagers behind him and remarked, "Someone like you can't be allowed to live any longer. Please don't, give me a break, I'll be different. I'm not going to harm any insects. Let me live, please, please have mercy." Naruto turned his body as though he was about to leave, and he snapped his thumb and index finger. A pure black snake, like dragon, which was black with gray fur down its back, flew out of the shadows and wrapped its body around Naruto in a protective manner. It was a beautiful dragon, but you could tell it had a lot of power. Think of Shenron from DBZ, just a different color. "I apologize, but I'm done with that. I took advantage of all of your possessions and money. Now it's all mine." Looking directly into Gata's eyes, Naruto remarked, "And I will make sure you can't hurt anyone else either." "What does that mean?" In an attempt to get away, Gata asked. While Okami, in her dragon form, sank the body and the blood into a shadowy abyss and vanished as well, Naruto grinned like a beast and said, "It means, checkmate." Then, with a snap, Gata's neck was snapped by a well-aimed Kizakuji, causing him to die a slow and agonizing death. "He's dead. In fact, he's dead." People began rushing to him to thank him with hugs, handshakes, marriage proposals, and other forms of traditional gratitude as the villages erupted in pure joy. Some were spinning in the air, kissing their loved ones, and others were already getting intoxicated. After dismissing everyone, Naruto approaches Zabuza and hands him a scroll, saying, "Here's 10% of Gata's money." Gata was a multi-billionaire, so this hardly scratches the surface of what I have. Zabuza grinned at the sum, saying, "Not bad, kid. Not bad." Naruto approached Tazuna with a sly smile. Naruto opened the scroll and revealed huge stacks of $100 bills in front of him, saying, "Tazuna, I would like to give you this." Naruto grinned at everyone's expressions and said, "I believe you and the populace could make good use of this." Tazuna was astounded by the amount he was giving him and said, "I thank you, Naruto." He wiped away the tears that threatened to spill from his eyes and said, "It's no need to thank me." Naruto put a hand on Inari's head and added, "Don't worry about paying Konoha either. I'll simply use 15% of the funds to make the payment. The cost of this A-rank mission should be covered by that. As long as Wave believed, which he did, I promised Inari that I would do everything in my power for him." As Inari gave him a hug, Naruto rubbed his head and said, "Good job, Squirt." "Thanks, Naruto.ni.san. I'm happy you're still here, kid." Everyone laughed when Tazuna patted Naruto on the shoulder and said, "It wasn't the same without you." Naruto simply laughed and remarked, "It takes a lot more to kill me than those third-rate shinobi." Naruto. Sakura's words caught Naruto's attention, and all of the Joninsa aside from Sai, Shino, and Sasuke ran to embrace him, embarrassing him. "Happy to see you alive, man." Akamaru was licking his face as Kiba spoke, and the poor dog appeared worn out. Shino remarked, "Nice work, Uzumaki-san." Everyone around him, with the exception of Hinata and Sakura, was startled when Sai said, "Your penis must be quite large for taking on all those bandits." Naruto. "I appreciate your protection." Sakura gave Naruto a hug and handed him his book, which he accepted politely. "I need more training so you won't have to protect me anymore," she said. He was unable to cuddle his book because Hinata kissed him lightly, which startled him for a moment, but he kissed back, making her faint from doing that in public. Kurenai grinned, thinking that this was the first time he had ever kissed her. Sasuke approached him, and the entire bridge fell silent as they watched the two. Sasuke HMPTED to the silver-haired hero and held out a fist, and Naruto did the same, pounding it. Everyone understood that since they now respect each other. Back at the house after 6 hours, it's been a very interesting week since his rebirth, and Naruto sighed as he looked out his window at the large moon tonight. He gets really edgy when the moon comes out, for some reason. Everybody interviewed him about his activities throughout the entire mission, and even though everyone understood his self-imposed mission, they weren't happy about not being involved. The other set of questions was for Okami, and Naruto told them that she was just one of his dragon summons. They kept asking him how he managed to pull it off, so he just told them everything he told Aoi. Today only made him tired, not to mention what he got from Kakashi. Rewind. Naruto concluded his story by saying, "And that's my excuse." Kakashi looked at the boy for a while, trying to determine whether he was telling the truth, but he couldn't find any lies in his amethyst eyes. Kakashi sighed and nodded to the boy, saying, "Okay, I understand." As Naruto nodded and prepared to leave the room, Kakashi retorted, "I can't really agree with the results, but I don't know if I would do the same thing you did." When Naruto stopped at the door and turned to face the Cyclops, Kakashi called out to him, "Wait a minute, Naruto." He then went to his bag and took out an ordinary brown old book, saying, "Naruto, I want to give you this. Your father owns it." Kakashi handed the boy the book and said, "He told me to give you this when I thought you were ready." Naruto was unsure of how to react. He held the book with an unfamiliar affection he had never experienced before, and he looked at Kakashi, searching his eyes for a moment before nodding and noticing a conviction in his gaze. Kakashi put his hands on Naruto's shoulders and remarked, "I have seen you develop into a strong young man, Naruto. You're prepared. I felt like I had failed your father when I witnessed the death of your clone. I don't want to experience that emotion ever again. He was my hero," Kakashi said solemnly. Naruto was silent as he spoke, and he could sense the waves of remorse washing over the man. "I recognize Kakashi. Thank you for this," Naruto said as he grinned and left the room. Final flashback. "Kit, how does it feel?" As Naruto's thoughts went blank, Kyuubi inquired, "How does it feel to be loved? You have been a hero to that unappreciative village, Konoha, all your life. But you're not treated like one by them. They'd rather murder you than praise you. Even without me, though, this village hailed you as a hero. So why return home?" Naruto was about to respond, but he decided against it after hearing a knock on his head. Naruto.kun. "Are you conscious?" When Hinata opened the door to reveal her lavender nightgown, Naruto noticed that she was flushed, which caused something inside of him to awaken. "Is something wrong, Hinata?" As soon as he approached her, Naruto felt Hinata's arms envelop him in a loving embrace, and he made every effort to stifle his developing appendage. Naruto.kun. "I'm so happy you're still here. I was devastated to learn that you were Kia. I desired to live my entire life with you. I wanted to do a lot of things with you, like grow old together and have children. I was the first to pull back," as she boldly pushed Naruto on the bed while landing on him, she said, kissing him erotically with a passion he had never experienced from her. "I found myself hating myself doing something I always wanted to do. I came to understand that a shinobi's life is brief and perilous, Naruto.kun. This is something I would never want to do with anyone else." She kissed him again and said, "Please, Naruto.kun, make love to M.me. Naruto realized then that he had found his angle and his reason for returning. The Hinata, because of the privacy seal Naruto placed on the walls, no one ever heard them declare their love until they both passed out from exhaustion. Later in the morning, we are grateful to all of you for helping us finish the bridge. You've spent so much time here. Everyone in the village was bidding farewell to their hero and team, and Tazuna said, I really don't want to say goodbye, as she looked solemnly at the ground. Kurenai smiled and said, thank you for your hospitality. We had a great time. Hinata gave Inari a hug. Goodbye, Inari.kun. Keep getting stronger. Hinata said, why don't you have to protect the village now, and Sakura nodded. You'll be back. Right? Inari said, accepting the hug that kept his blush hidden and his tears contained. Looking at Naruto, Inari posed the question. After a week of getting used to his neediness, Naruto simply nodded and gave him a head pat, saying, sure squirt. Even though it was brief, Inari's smile was all he needed to know he would do this. Hey, we don't have the entire day, so let's go. That boy changed Inari's heart and in return Inari changed the people's hearts, Zabuza said, grabbing everyone's attention. The two missing nins chose to join the Leaf Village because they genuinely like Naruto and because Haku is sick of all the running away. After saying their goodbyes, they all left, with Tazuna grinning pitifully. Tazuna wisely remarked, that boy gave us hope, and hope brings courage. Hey, we need a name for the bridge, a man in the crowd said, turning to Tazuna. What ought we to call it? They all smiled broadly and said the same thing at the same time without even wasting a second. The Great Bridge of Naruto, alongside Naruto. That concludes the Wave arc, and Naruto is ecstatic he received a ton of money, had sex with Hinata, and, based on what he's learned from the birds, the people of Wave are naming the bridge after him. Nothing can spoil this day, which is the happiest day of his life. Hi Hinata. What's causing you to smell like Naruto? The only way that can happen is if he marked you as his mate. Kiba concluded by glaring at Naruto, causing Hinata to blush deeply. Kakashi laughed and gave Naruto the thumbs up, while Sasuke and Sai blushed slightly but remained silent. Shino simply gave him a spooky look, while Kurenai and Sakura looked extremely angry. My day was completely ruined by you, Kiba. Damn you to hell. Nah. Ru. 2. The night in Konoha was quiet. Tonight, the moon shone, casting a serene, tranquil glow over Konoha. Naruto held the brown book that Kakashi had given him. My dad? With the book in his hand, Naruto pondered. If he wasn't a little afraid to peek inside, he would be deluding himself. Naruto was amazed by the chapters his father must have written. Recalling everything that had happened before, Naruto turned back toward the moon. 2 weeks have passed since Naruto returned from his wave. Many things have happened in that time. Reporting to the elderly man was one of the first actions taken. Rewind. Naruto entered the room and said, hey old man, it's been a while. As his sergeant grandson entered the room, Hiruzen stood motionless. As Naruto, Kakashi, Kurenai, Zabuza, and Haku entered the room, Hiruzen looked on in blankness. Hiruzen turned and gave the Jonins a fierce glare. The tone in which their cage addressed them made the Jonins tense. Is this funny to you? Naruto arched an eyebrow and said, release this genjutsu at once. Naruto pointed to the two Jonin and remarked, what do you mean, genjutsu old man? I don't think Kakashi Sensei or Kurenai Sensei is that suicidal. Kurenai raised her hand without intending to enrage the elderly cage, saying, he's really alive Hokage. Sama. Naruto faked his death. Despite taking a deep breath, Hiruzen's eyes remained sharp. Explain. Naruto proceeded to explain the reasons behind his actions. Naruto's intense expression gradually subsided into comprehension as he continued to speak. Following Naruto's story, Kakashi and Kurenai began their own. Among other things, they described the brutal stories of Wave Country and the conflict with Zabuza. After the two were finished, he turned to face Haku and Zabuza, causing them to wince. Hiruzen leveled his glare and said, Zabuza Momochi, you have done a lot of terrible things. Give me one good reason why I should allow you to be part of my village. Gazing at the wrinkly cage, Zabuza let out a sigh. As much as I would like to deny it, I still lack the strength to go and face the Mizukage, who has only ever caused suffering to many people. I want to join your village in order to provide Haku with a better life. That motherfucker destroyed so many lives. I want to join this village to escape from it all. I failed to get my revenge, now it's someone else's turn. Zabuza concluded solemnly, I wanted to end his life to inspire peace in my country. He has killed people who I once thought of as friends because they had a Keki Genkai. As he explained things to the elderly man that he was unaware of, Haku turned to face his master. He began to question what more his master had concealed from him. Hiruzen didn't say anything as he looked into Zabuza's eyes for any sign of dishonesty, but he couldn't find anything. Hiruzen pulled out some paperwork and said, I see. Very well. I will allow you and your partner to join my village. But I will have to know more about your partner. Zabuza nodded as Haku turned to face him. He moved forward and smiled kindly at the elderly man. Giving as little information as possible, Haku stated, "My name is Haku Yuki. I'm from a small village in Mizu no Kuni. I have a Keki Genkai. Hayatan, and for the record I'm a boy." Hiruzen smiled slightly at the boy and jotted down everything Haku had said. As Haku pondered in silence, Hiruzen said, "Thank you Haku-san. Tell me, what do you specialize in?" Nodding, Hiruzen turned back to the boy and said, "I'm more interested in medical ninjutsu Hokage." Sama. Zabuza and Haku nodded in agreement, saying, "All right, as of right now, I'm placing you and Zabuza-san on probation for 3 months. You will be placed on Anbu watch to determine your loyalty." As Naruto stepped up, Zabuza said, "That will be perfect Hokage." Sama. If I may ask, where will me and Haku live? Haku grinned at Naruto's generosity as he responded, "I have an idea, Hokage." Sama. Since I own my own apartment building, I have no problem letting them live in one of the rooms. That will be all right, Hiruzen said with a nod. Naruto, I know it's short notice, but I have another mission for you. You are responsible for showing Zabuza and Haku around Konoha, to get them more familiar with the village. This will be a D-ranked mission. Naruto gave a nod. The flashback concludes. The recollection caused Naruto to sigh. It was a nightmare to show Zabuza and Haku around Konoha. He had never encountered a woman as feminine as Haku. Naturally, Naruto had to buy him the things he needed because he wanted to visit every store to look around and occasionally make a purchase. Haku was intrigued by Konoha as well. As quickly as he could, he was asking questions. Naturally, Naruto gave the feminine boy all the information he could because he saw no need to conceal anything about his new home. Zabuza, however, desired to visit every gun shop in Konoha. He was nearly as awful as Haku. Nearly. He demonstrated to the two that he knew home after everything was said and done. The apartment was very similar to his own. Just a bit larger, considering that there are 2 residents rather than just 1. As he ran around the apartment, Haku appeared to be full of energy once more. Zabuza simply grinned and began to settle in. Although spending the entire day with Zabuza and Haku was exhausting, his weeks were far from over. It was just the start. Hinata, or rather, Hinata's father, presented him with his next obstacle. Her father, indeed. You see, this all began when Hinata requested his consent to date him. Naruto has never felt safe again because of this one deed. Rewind. Hinata groaned as she essentially drugged Naruto to her house, saying, "Come on Naruto-kun." Trotting to the mansion, Naruto let out a pathetic sigh. He clearly didn't want to be there, based on the expression on his face. Naruto whimpered, "Why'd I have to go? I could be doing something else, like training." Hinata gave him a half glare because she wasn't brave enough to give her love a full glare just yet. With a disgruntled expression on his face, Naruto sighed, "Because I asked you to Naruto-kun. Father really wants to meet you." When they arrived at the manor, Hinata escorted him inside while ignoring the guards in front. Naruto kept his vigilance up, scanning the manor in case someone attacked. When Hinata saw how anxious he was, she took his hand and tried to reassure him. Naruto became a little more composed after he saw her hand. The two of them soon found themselves in front of a wooden sliding door, a common feature of older Japanese homes. Hinata waited for a response after knocking once. It was not long before a rough voice came through the door, "Enter." Hinata brought Naruto with her when she opened the door. Shuffling into the room, Naruto forced himself to hide his uneasiness and put on a face devoid of emotion. Then Hinata bowed to her father and said, "Father, I have brought Naruto-kun like you asked." She turned to face Naruto in the hopes that he would bow, but her hopes were short-lived as Naruto looked directly ahead, staring Hinata's father in the eyes. As Hinata got up from bowing and walked away, "Hi," she said, "Hinata, leave us. I have matters to discuss with young Uzumaki." However, not before glancing at Naruto. She could see that he was totally at ease with the situation. She's hoping that he won't do anything that would make her father think less of him. "Hi," she asked calmly, "Uzumaki, how long have you been dating my daughter?" But Naruto could tell that the father was really upset underneath. Unfazed by Hinata's father's glare, Naruto responded, "I have been dating Hinata for a few months." "Hi," she questioned in a chilly manner, "Why wasn't I told?" Even now, Naruto swears that he could see the man's breath in the way Hishi asked. Naruto, showing no apprehension, replied, "I wouldn't know. It was Hinata's choice to tell you or not. The way she speaks of you tells me that you and her don't have a kind relationship. So if I had to say, she didn't tell you because she was afraid of you." Heishi certainly didn't display any signs of offense. Naruto looked down at the man fearlessly and asked, "Are you suggesting that Hinata is scared of me?" "Yes. That is exactly what I'm saying. Hinata's stuttering isn't from weakness. It is from low confidence. She told me how you always belittle her. When doing that, you are destroying her self-esteem. I have been doing all I can for her to gain confidence and it has been working. She didn't tell you because she was afraid that you would disapprove." For a minute, Heishi remained silent while observing Naruto's eyes. After a full minute, Heishi spoke once more, but in a more strained manner. "What would you do if I did disapprove?" After saying, "I would do what is best for Hinata. If she still wants to pursue a relationship with me, I wouldn't stop her." Heishi became agitated when Naruto's calm aura abruptly vanished and was replaced by a more violent aura. "But if you so much even think of branding Hinata with your seals, then I will bring down the Hyugas with so much primal anger that it'll make the Kyuubi attack look like a playground slap fight." Heishi gave a small nod as the aura dissipated. Heishi stared at Naruto, his heart pounding frantically in his chest. Hisamethyst had such icy, menacing eyes. You felt as though a ferocious animal was staring you in the eyes and threatening to attack. The two were silent for a few more tense seconds. Heishi says, capturing Naruto's interest, "Very well." Withdrawing his control of his ki, Heishi said, "I will let you date my daughter, but if she gets hurt in any way with you, I will deal with you personally." Naruto didn't express any emotions. Without waiting for a dismissal, Naruto said, "Thank you for your time, Hyuga-san. I will be on my way," and walked away. Heishi silently glanced at the door. This boy was capable of confronting my ki. He also poses a threat to the Hyuga clan. Heishi got up and walked to a window, thinking, by all rights, I should have killed him where he stood. He looked out and saw his oldest son embrace the boy who had the audacity to challenge him. She was worried about him, and he could tell by the tears in her eyes and the relieved expression on her face. However, I don't see the need to ruin Hinata's happiness if this boy could give her courage and hope. I'll put up with young Uzumaki for the time being and move on. With that strategy in place, he returned to his paperwork while pondering one final idea. I'll also cut down on the length of our daily training sessions. Perhaps some positive reinforcement is needed. For young Uzumaki, everything appears to be going smoothly. The end of the flashback in keeping with his promise, Hinata's father gave her more praise and less training. When they spar, Naruto was able to be identified by her assured posture. Lately, Hinata has been surprising him more and more in general. She can now confront him with greater confidence. That made Naruto smirk. Hinata was very happy that he had a bigger bite now. She can now be Kiba in a simple fight, but only in the majority of cases. To truly defeat him every time, she still needs more practice. It wasn't just her who was growing stronger. On his own, he is also becoming a formidable opponent and younger brother figure. Rewind. Naruto and Anko concluded their training at around noon. If you looked closely at Naruto, you could see that his face was covered in a childish pout. His training had been interrupted by a call from the Hokage. He was very nearly done with his new jutsu. Naruto sighed at his incomplete jutsu before his name was called. Stupid old man. Couldn't wait till I finished my jutsu to call Anko. Sensei. Naruto. Sakura was waving at Naruto when he looked forward. Naruto approached without much haste. Offered him a smile when he arrived, and Sasuke turned away and med. Sakura was surrounded by a violent aura when Naruto said, "Nani, why are you standing out here? Where's Kakashi, sensei? That bastard is always late. He makes us wait 3 hours for him to show up. Then gives us some stupid excuse on why he's late." Sakura was grumbling towards the end. At Team 7, Naruto performed an anime sweat drop. Sakura and Sasuke's faces were a mask of ignorance. "Nani? Why don't you just show up later then? If you know he's going to be later, you could be doing something better, like training." Naruto cast a covert chuckle at the pair. Passively, Naruto remarked, "And come on, his excuse can't be that bad." A puff of smoke covered the ground in front of them before Sakura could open her mouth to respond. With his eyes sparkling with laughter, Kakashi said, "Yo, I apologize for being late. I had to save a fish from drowning, and then I met a fortune teller who told me that if a black cat crossed my path, I would have bad luck, so I took the long way around." Sakura looked at Naruto as if he were dead. With a ghoulish expression on her face, she said, "Yes. They can." Naruto nodded, his eyes crunching up like a fox when he saw Sakura's aura. Kakashi remarked, observing his gifts, "Yo, Naruto. What are you doing here?" Naruto pulled out his book and turned to Kakashi. "Anko. Sensei had a meeting with the old man, so I'm off for today." Following Naruto's example, Kakashi pulled out his book and nodded. "I see, Well, she did tell me to find you and give you something. This saved me a trip. Kakashi took out our 4 little bits of paper. The 4 of them seized the pieces of paper and said, I have nominated you 3 while Anko has nominated Naruto for the Chunin exams. Sasuke nodded, thrilled that he could now engage in combat. He leapt away to begin his daily training. Sakura appeared anxious and uncomfortable due to the Chunin exams. Am I prepared? Sai's thoughts were mostly about penises, so she didn't have anything to say. He appeared to be very interested in who was larger. Naruto grinned without giving it any thought. Putting it in his pocket, he returned to his book. He then exploded in a puff of smoke, leaving the Genins and Tokubetsu Genin alone. You are all expected to be at the academy 2 days from now. It's completely optional, so if you decide not to do it, it's up to you. Ya nay. If he wasn't being followed by a little box, Naruto would have smirked and begun to move away. Sakura and Sai were amused when Naruto turned around and glared at the box. The box gave off a little childlike laugh. Nani? What kind of box is square with 2 holes? That's the worst disguise I have ever seen. The little box burst into a riot of color, revealing 3 young children. Wow, you're good. You saw through our camouflage. No wonder Oji-san compliments you. The first person he saw was a young boy wearing spectacles. He has a drop of snot running from his nose and appears to be extremely sleepy. He was dressed in knee-length brown shorts. Moreover, a blue shirt that zipped down resembled a coat. Aside from the green goggles on his head, nothing else appeared unusual. His gaze then fell on an orange-haired girl wearing the same pair of goggles as the previous boy. She had red oval markings on both cheeks, and her orange hair was tied up in 2 enormous pigtails with red elastic. She was dressed in gray pants, traditional ninja sandals, and a red tank top over a pink shirt layered at the bottom. The leader of the 2 appears to be the next one. He had black eyes and short, spiky brown hair. He appears to be dressed in gray shorts, a long blue scarf, and a yellow shirt with the Konoha symbol in red. He wore goggles like the others. Naruto looked up from his book and said, Nani? Who are you? The boy who appeared to prefer dozing off emerged first, striking an odd pose. I am Udon, the kid who loves math, exclaimed the first brat. With a sexy pose of her own, the girl exclaimed, I'm the cutest girl in preschool, Moegi. As they concluded their pose, the final one exclaimed, and I'm the kid who's going to become the next Hokage, Konohamaru. Naruto returned his attention to his book and said, That's great, now why were you following me? Here, Oji-san told me to give you this. Konohamaru grinned. Naruto glanced at the note and perused it. Greetings, Naruto. Please take care of my grandson for a while for me. Play with him for a while, you know. I can't have him in for a while because I have some work to do here. Regards. Hokage, the old man. Naruto gazed in astonishment at the note. When Naruto yelled, Teme. When did I become a babysitter? Everyone laughed heartily. You didn't see Naruto lose his temper every day. Naruto let out a sigh, disliking his work. There is nothing he can do but send the children off. He would get into trouble for that. With a menacing gleam, Konohamaru nodded. So, you're the Hokage's grandson, huh? With a tick on the side of his head, Naruto smashed his fist on top of the boy's head, temporarily shocking him. That's right, Oji-san said you have to play with us. You got that? Naruto exclaimed. Everyone gaped in disbelief. Konohamaru has never been hit before. Naruto looked down into the shocked eyes of Konohamaru and said, Don't act like a snooty brat. I'm doing this out of the kindness of my heart. Konohamaru smiled and said, Hi, he's different. Hey, let's play ninja. Konohamaru said to his friends, who applauded. Moegi turned to look at Naruto like a puppy dog. Will you play with us? Naruto was completely affected by the look because he has never interacted with many children. Hi. Sakura chuckled at Naruto's feeble attempt to protect the girl. A ninja playing ninja. You don't see that very often, Naruto. Sakura smiled amiably, but Konohamaru took it as a sign of something else. Nay, Oyabun, is she your girlfriend? Naruto raised a Oyabun as he turned to face the boy. Children nodded when Naruto said, No, she is just a friend. Sakura turned to the boy angrily as Konohamaru said, Good, I was going to question you on your taste in girls. Despite seeing Sakura, Naruto did nothing to stop him. Not feeling the key aimed at him, Konohamaru repeated, I mean really, that huge ugly forehead, not to mention she's so flat. Is that really a girl? However, he saw her face in utter rage as soon as he turned to face her. Konohamaru said, Matt, you can't hit me, Oyabun will protect me, right? But was met with silence because Naruto was standing next to Sai on the other side. With his eyes fixed on his book, Naruto said. Nay, the old man asked me to look after you. He never said I had to protect you from your stupidity. Don't hurt him too bad, Sakura. As she charged the children, Sakura cracked her knuckles and said, can't promise anything. Sai and Naruto watched as they fled. While Sai went his own way, Naruto followed them slowly. A voice exclaimed, ow, you little brat, and Naruto hurried to the scene. A man in a catsuit was holding Konohamaru in midair. Udon and Moegi cried out, Konohamaru, as the Catman lifted their leader off the ground. Behind him, the girl with the enormous fan sighed, and the Catman exclaimed, that hurt you piece of shit, instead, don't, we'll get in trouble. Naruto walked slowly to Sakura until he was by her side, saying, if I were you, I would listen to her. You could end up dead. After observing Naruto, the Catman concluded that he was a genin. The Catman grinned while grinning at the child he was holding. Pulling back his fist, the cat said, I think I'll play with you before the boss shows up. Snap. The cat doubled over in agony as a blast of condensed wind struck its stomach. As the cat flew back a few feet, Naruto sprang forward and kicked the Catman in the mouth, landing Konohamaru on his shoulders. The girl clutched her fan while gazing at her deceased brother. Naruto turned to face her and let loose his ki, causing both of them to freeze at its intensity. As they both looked at Naruto in terror, they thought, this almost feels like Gaara. With their eyes full of stars, Konohamaru and his group gazed up at Naruto. Konohamaru shouted, Ni-chan, that was so awesome, which caused Naruto to grin at him. The Catman stood up and gave Naruto a vile glare. He grabbed a wrapped bundle from behind him and held it in front of him, saying, okay. You just fucked with the wrong guy. The fact that he was using startled the girl. When the cat asked, you gonna use Crow already? It grinned and nodded. As a tiny rock struck him in the head, he naturally wiped a smirk from his face. I got to show these kids who's boss, Temari. When everyone looked toward the trees, they saw Sasuke sitting and throwing a rock into the air. Although Naruto didn't appear to be looking at him directly, he did look in his direction. Holding the rock and causing it to shatter, Sasuke uttered, what are you bastards doing in our village? Sasuke.kun! Exclaimed Sakura in a fangirl manner. Thinking he was cute, the girl with the fan blushed. The cat glared at Sasuke while holding his head where the rock struck him. Great, yet another jerk that irritates me. As he prepared to open his package, the cat remarked, I detest conceited people like you too. People were confused when Naruto said, why don't you come on down? You can't hide from me. Sasuke leapt to his feet and stood in front of Sakura, saying, I wasn't hiding, you idiot. Without even glancing at him, Naruto uttered the words, I wasn't talking to you. As everyone turned to face the trees, they noticed a red-haired boy standing upside down directly behind Sasuke. Sasuke was startled to discover that he had been completely unaware of the person behind him. The feline appeared to recoil in terror. Naruto turned back to the now identified individual and said, Gaara. Gaara resurfaced behind the two sand nins after vanishing in a sand cyclone and saying, Conqueror, you're an embarrassment to our village. Gaara said, emotionlessly, losing yourself in a fight. How pathetic. Why do you think we came to the Leaf Village? Conqueror stammered out in fear, it's not my fault. They're the ones that started it. Gaara directed ki towards Conqueror. After stepping back and nodding, Conqueror said, shut up. Or I'll kill you. Temari nodded in apology, saying, yeah okay, I'm sorry. Gaara's icy emerald eyes turned to judge Naruto and Sasuke. Naruto nodded and said, sorry to you guys. Gazing at Sasuke, Gaara thought, he's good to be able to hit Conqueror with that rock. Then a sense of comprehension struck him, and his gaze fell upon Naruto. It takes tremendous speed and skill to be able to punch Conqueror and save the child at the same time. This man is superior to the other. Gaara turned around and said, come on, we're leaving. We didn't come here to play. Sakura yells at them to stop. Suna may be allies with the Leaf, but it's still forbidden for shinobis to enter each other's villages without permission. State your purpose. Depending on it, we may not be able to let you go. Sakura is glaring at the three of them. Sakura laughed as Temari held up a pass. While Konohamaru and his friends appeared excited, Naruto nodded at the three. Talk about clueless. Don't you know anything? You're right, we are genins from Suna. We have come to your village to take the Chunin exams. Then Sasuke came forward and said, hey you, with the gourd, what's your name? Gaara squinted in response. Gaara surprised Naruto and Sasuke by saying, Sabaku no Gaara. I'm also interested in you too, your name? Sasuke grinned and said, it's Uchiha Sasuke. Quietly, Naruto said, Uzumaki Naruto. He couldn't place it, but there was something familiar about Gaara. Gaara gave a nod and bounded off, leaving everyone to ponder. After obtaining the information he desired, Sasuke began to leave. Sakura shouted, "Mata Sasuke.kun. See you Naruto," as she attempted to catch up to Sasuke. Naruto gave a nod and escorted the young kids off. 3 people flinched when he gave a tree a single, tiny glare. He gave them a sly smile and carried on. It appears that the 3 individuals who watched the entire event are genins. One of the guys with the spiky hair asked, "So what do you guys think?" A man wearing bandages from head to toe said, "We should keep our eyes on them. The silver-haired guys are going to be a problem along with the guy with the gourd and the black-haired leaf." The end of the flashback. Naruto cast an emotionless glance at the moon. Naruto became tense during the encounter with the trio of sand. He was reminded of himself by something about Gaara. Nobody would tell him, not even the Kyuubi. He would merely chuckle and assure him that he would discover the truth. As the day wore on, Konohamaru grew closer to him. He began to regard Naruto more like a brother. In an attempt to flatter him, he even began referring to him as Ni-chan. Today, he worked out with the trio. He gave them a lesson in one of his practical jokes. The old man's favorite retaliation is always Oroku no Jutsu. Sexy jutsu. I bet this will be the last time that old fart will throw his grandson at me again, Naruto thought, laughing evilly. Out of the darkness, a voice said, "That's quite the chuckle you have." He pivoted and gave the voice a fierce look. Out of the shadows emerged a man who looked elderly and frail, and he used a cane to walk. His right eye was kept bandaged, and he had black shaggy hair. On his chin, there was an X-shaped scar. Over a brown robe that hung from his feet to just over his right shoulder, he wore a white shirt. His right arm, which was bandaged and covered in 3 large golden braces, is hidden by the robe. The man in front of him said, "Hello young one. I am Shimura Danzo." In an attempt to determine whether the man posed a threat to him, Naruto examined him closely. Naruto could tell that the man was very powerful even though he appeared to be elderly and weak, far more powerful than him. "I am Uzumaki Naruto." The man nodded and grinned. As he approached the roof's edge, the man said, "I know who you are. I have been watching you ever since you became a shinobi." Naruto inhaled deeply and smelled someone else lurking in the shadows. Faint breathing was heard to Naruto's right as he focused. "Who are they? I had better play this correctly." Naruto walked over to the edge and thought, they might be his guard. Danzo turned to face the boy with the silver hair and said, "Tell me Naruto.kun, what do you think of this village?" When Naruto said, "I feel nothing for this village Danzo." The man scowled. Naruto surprised the man by saying, "This village is just that, a village. Buildings and trees, I can't feel anything for that. I believe in the goals that Konoha represents. Friendship, love, and power. The teachings that I was taught by Hokage Sama and my teachers are what I believe in. As long as I have that, that is all I need," Naruto stated as he left Danzo. Naruto jumped off his roof and entered his home after saying, "It was nice meeting you, Danzo.san. You might want to tell your guards that they can't hide from me. An animal will always find his prey." Danzo remained silent, unsure of what to say. After saying, "That boy will be strong under my forces," he vanished into the wind. Naruto is back. Once again, Naruto sat on his bed and gazed at the book that Kakashi had given him. When he realized it was time to read about his father, he let out a sigh. Naruto said aloud, "It's time to see if I was right. Let's see who you are." He opened the cover to reveal an odd seal. It was in what appeared to be a whirlpool-like circle. Naruto traced the seal with his fingers, causing it to glow intensely, and asked, "What kind of seal is this?" A glowing seal that read, "Transfer," was inscribed on his forehead with each stroke of the seal. When finished, he lay on his bed looking lifeless, the seal glowing brightly on his forehead. At the gate, Hiruzen Sarutobi is a strong individual. His 3 wars of combat experience have made him a formidable advisor with few peers. But as we age, power diminishes. His life has been good. He had a previous marriage, had kids, and they had grandchildren. Regardless of the challenges, he has witnessed Konoha thrive under peace. However, he has also witnessed the negative aspects of life. He has survived all 3 of the wars he has been in. More times than he can recall, he has sent shinobi to their deaths. His 69 years of life have been filled with both joy and sorrow. Naruto disappointed him the most. He has made every attempt to keep him safe, but every single one of them has backfired. He was viewed by the villages as the Kyuubi who had murdered so many people. The fact that they applauded his wife and Kushina for taming the beast but not the boy sickens him, their own household. The only reason we have a symbol that every village is familiar with is because of the Uzumaki. In this village, Naruto is essentially a prince. He comes from the Uzumaki royal clan and is the son of a Kage. The Senji clan, who founded this village, included them in their family. Despite their small numbers, their strength alone frightened hidden villages. We proudly display their symbol on our jackets and forehead protectors because of their strength and the alliance we shared. We do this in remembrance of the two villages' friendship, which endures even after Uzushiogakure was destroyed, and we still do it today. And for part of that reason, we find Hiruzen standing in the middle of the night in front of the gate. He patiently awaited a person to pass through the gate. He was spared a long wait. A tall man entered the village with a red-haired boy and women. The three individuals who entered the village were examined by Hiruzen. Since he asked him to escort the two, he was able to quickly identify Jiraiya among the group. In contrast, he hadn't seen the woman in a long time. Her hair, which framed both sides of her face, was long and bright red, reaching down to her calves. She also wore a dark skirt, tied dark stockings, and a plain blouse that resembled a kimono with loose sleeves. Despite appearing somewhat ill, she appeared prepared for battle. The next was a young man with red hair and blue eyes. His hair reached his neck, though it was not as long as his mother's. He was dressed in black shinobi pants and had an orange belt with a swirling buckle. He flaunted his abs in a low dot-cut black shirt. Above that, he had on a white jacket with sleeves lined in orange. The jacket itself fell to his sides, adorning his knees, stopping at a V at his chest. A tanta in an orange and brown sheath rested on his back. Hiruzen approached the trio and gave them a nod. Jiraiya approached Hiruzen and joyfully grasped his shoulder as they nodded. Jiraiya, Uzumaki Namikaze Kushina, Uzumaki Namikaze Kai. It is great to see you all. As everyone nodded and jumped on the roofs, Jiraiya said, "It's been a while, sensei. How about we all catch up in your office?" Alongside Naruto as his voice reverberated, Naruto asked, "Where the hell am I?" There was a meadow where he looked. There was no wind blowing through the trees and other vegetation. In his eyes, the water glistened and sparkled. He inhaled deeply and smelled the air, but he detected nothing. It seemed as though nothing was present. He entered the meadow and searched for anything familiar, but he found nothing. What the hell is going on here? Where am I? Well, that's kind of hard to explain. A better question is, how did you get a hold of the journal? A person said behind him. Naruto looked around in search of answers, but all he got were more queries. The man had fair skin and was fairly tall. His bright blue eyes and spiky blonde hair, with jaw-length bangs framing each side of his face, gave him a 6 feet 3 inches appearance. He was wearing a flak jacket, a forehead protector, and a standard Konoha.nin uniform with 2 bands on each sleeve. However, what caught his eye was a long white coat with short sleeves that was closed on the front by a thin orange rope and adorned with flame-like motifs on the edges. The kanji for Yandaime Hokage was written vertically down the back. With a gasp, Naruto said, "You're..." The man looked down at our hero with a sly smile. "Yeah, I'm Minato Namikaze, the Yandaime Hokage." Naruto couldn't speak because his father was the one who used the Kyuubi to curse him. Naruto thought, "It seems I was right," as his father looked down at him bewildered. "Well, please explain yourself. By that forehead protector I can see that you're from Konoha. And since I don't see a flak jacket on you, I can see that you're a genin. So why are you here?" Minato asks without any emotion. Like his father, Naruto straightened up. Since he no longer looked like himself, he assumed that his father had not recognized him. The man narrowed his eyes as Naruto said, "Tokubetsu Genin of Konoha, Uzumaki Naruto. I came here because Kakashi gave me my father's journal. When opening, a seal must have sent me here, my guess by your design." Minato gave the young person a scowl. Naruto noticed the anger in his eyes and grew tired. "How can you claim to be Uzumaki Naruto? I admit that you do share some resemblance to him, but Naruto has blonde hair and blue eyes. Not silver hair and purple eyes." The fourth was intrigued when Naruto remarked, "I can claim to be him because a man made me this way." "Who?" As a surge of murderous intent erupted into the room, Naruto exclaimed, "Orochimaru." Minato growled, "Explain." Naruto informed the deceased Kage of everything that had occurred since his passing. When the old Kage heard what was happening, he sighed and remained silent. Naruto nodded but remained silent, saying, "I see. Everything's so different now. It's a shame how Sarutobi let things go." Minato put his hand on Naruto's head and remarked, "So you're my son, right? It was only yesterday that I last saw you. You were a baby then, and now you're a young teenager." He had never experienced it before. Other than Hinata, no one has ever shown him this much love. but this love was completely unique. Does a parent's love feel like this? Naruto nodded, prepared for anything. Naruto, there are some things that you might not know, so I'm going to explain them to you. You may already know this, but on the night of your birth the Kyuubi attacked. You might have been told that he attacked without warning. Well, that was a lie. Naruto was quiet as Minato clarified. Naruto was shocked when Minato stated, it attacked because someone was controlling it. Minato nodded, and Naruto repeated, controlling? Observing Naruto's expression, Minato remarked, I knew this when I tried to save your brother, and your mother. Minato inquired, have your mother told you anything? This time, Naruto shocked his father by shaking his head and saying, I have been alone ever since I can remember. I have never seen my mother or brother. Minato, attempting to accept that his love had deserted his only son, exclaimed, what, she wouldn't abandon you? Minato flinched back and gave a violent, negative shake of his head, saying, I will not lie. I have never seen her before. My guess is that she hates me for the Kyuubi. Naruto raised an eyebrow when Minato said, that's not possible, Naruto. She just wouldn't do that without a very good reason. Something's wrong here. As Minato put his hand on top of Naruto's head, Naruto retorted, what do you mean? It seems very easy to understand. Minato surprised Naruto by saying, son, this is a shinobi village. We're built on lies and deception. You have to look underneath the underneath. As he considered everything his father had said, Naruto remained silent. Naruto nodded in agreement, saying, it's best to hear both sides of a story before passing judgment on someone. With a smirk that included fangs, Naruto said, I understand, father. Minato knelt down and gave him a tight hug. Minato gave him a melancholy smile behind his back as Naruto froze at the touch. When Naruto winced, he realized he had received his response. I see, the villagers must have disobeyed my last wish. I'm sorry, Naruto. You grew up alone without a mother or brother to be there for you. But your eyes tell me that you are a good kid. You toughed through it and wear that headband with pride. I'm sorry I forced you to be the Jincha, Riki. There was no available option left I could choose from. I couldn't ask anyone else for their child, so I chose my own. I chose you because you were my son. I had and still do have faith that you could use it. The words that his father said made Naruto's eyes sting. He was crying, which surprised him. It had been so long since he had done that he had forgotten how it felt. Naruto finally gave the man a hug in return and said, it's okay, I'm your son, right? I'll cope. As Naruto looked up at his father and dried his eyes, they released their grip. Minato forced him to pay attention by saying, Naruto, in a serious tone, you have to get stronger. Stronger than me. Stronger than the guy who was controlling the Kyuubi. He was a shinobi of unfathomable power. No one could ever face him without a very unique set of abilities. There will be a time when he'll want to reclaim his pet. You must be ready. Minato spoke with a gloomy expression in his eyes with a serious expression on his face. Naruto nodded. Naruto, you have a destiny that you have to accomplish at any means. There will be times where people will betray you. Times where you must put yourself in other people's shoes and see it from their point of view. This will be a hard and difficult road. You have to be ready. What this man has plans for the Kyuubi can't be good for anyone. Minato continued as he rested his hand onto Naruto's head. This book is only for one time, since I never finished the seal. You can't come back again, I'm Afriad. The only ones that can enter here is you, your brother and your mother. Please let them see this, my son. Minato said as Naruto began to glow. As Naruto realized he had to leave, a harsh light consumed his body. It seems our time is growing short. I'm sorry, Naruto. Father, exclaimed Naruto, unwilling to part from his father for the final time. Naruto could only hear his father's last words in the light. They sounded like a chord in his head. As he concluded, Naruto vanished into the intense light, abandoning his father to the depths. We are a family of shinobis. Early in the morning, Naruto was startled awake. As he recalled the dream, his heart pounded painfully in his chest. On the kitchen table now was the book that had been resting on his chest during his sleep. Naruto gazed sorrowfully at the book. He was fond of the book he held. Goodbye, father. As Naruto made his way to the academy, he thought, today's the day. His now tanned face was brushed by the cool morning air. Naruto now has a nice, even tan as a result of his endless training. The young girls around him seemed to swoon as the tan seemed to make his silver hair glow in peace. Naruto's shoulder length hair has grown to his upper back, where it appears to glitter in the morning light. A tight crimson shirt with a purple fang in the center that glowed like his eyes replaced the black shirt that once embraced his body. He now wears a black trench coat that matches his outfit perfectly in place of the white coat with orange spirals he once wore. He switched his orange sash for a purple one that matched his eyes, but he still wore the same baggy black pants. It appears that Anko gave him his new attire as a gift. Since his previous ones were destroyed during his training, he was glad to have it. This was probably one of his first presents. His apartment building was the only present he ever received, and that doesn't say much about that piece of shit. Overall, he is extremely pleased with his gift. In order to honor her, he would wear them during the test. A voice called out, "Naruto," and jolted Naruto out of his reverie. Sakura was waving at him at the academy front doors when he looked up. Given how quickly he arrived at the old school, Naruto arched an eyebrow, but he ignored it. Sakura smiled as he nodded to Team 7. Sakura attempted to engage the boy in conversation by asking, "Naruto, are you ready for the exam?" Naruto grinned with his fangs and said, "Yes, I have studied a lot for this test. I am excited for the competition." Sasuke smirked at Naruto as he approached him. Naruto grinned at the challenge and nodded, saying, "You better make it toward the finals, dope. I only entered the exams to fight you. I trained too hard to lose against you." Sai pretended to smile as she said, "I wish you luck, Naruto-san." The smile made Naruto frown, but he still nodded. As everyone nodded, Naruto responded, "We should make our way inside now." They discovered a sizable crowd inside, emanating a hiss of agony. When they get to the front, they see a strange boy with a busted lip hitting the ground. Naruto gazed at the boy, perplexed. Why would anyone dress in that manner? Naruto pondered. The boy looked really different. His hair shone in the light, cut into a bowl shape. He appeared to have thick, enormous eyebrows, which made Naruto feel sorry for the animal that was affixed to the man's face. The boy appeared to be sporting a red forehead protector as a belt and a green jumpsuit with orange leg warmers. Remarkably, Naruto's eyes remained fixed on the boy's hands. Up to his wrists, they were wrapped in bandages. As the boy got to his feet and glared at the two boys standing guard at the door, Naruto thought, "Interesting." One of the boys yelled at the audience, "You might as well quit now. You plan to take on the Chunin exams with that kind of power." The fallen boy was helped back to his feet by a girl. During this time, Naruto examined the girl who appeared to be the boy's teammate. The girl's long brown hair appeared to be pulled back into two buns, and her eyes were brown. Under her bangs, she wore a forehead protector over her forehead. Wearing dark green pants and a pink sleeveless blouse, she looked extremely uninteresting. Although she appeared extremely uninteresting to Naruto, he was aware that appearances can be deceiving. The number the girl begged, "Please let us through," but was slapped across the face, which sent her back to her teammate. Naruto narrowed his eyes as everyone around her gasped at the boy's cruelty. "You think we like doing this? We're saving you. The Chunin exams aren't easy. Even we failed 3 times. Anything can happen in this exam, even your death. Chunins often become the commanding officer on a mission. The failure of a mission could often mean the death of your comrade. Are you prepared to make that kind of choice?" The child replied by keeping everyone in the hall quiet. Naruto and Sai grabbed Sasuke's shoulder as he made a showy move. "Don't do it, Sasuke. This is a test to weed out the weaklings. If you interfere now, this could bring a lot of unwanted competition to the exams." Naruto responded with a nod. Sasuke tried to slip away from the group while glaring at them and nodding nonetheless. Apparently spotting them slinking off, one of the boys charged at them. The boy raised his fist to strike our heroes and asked, "Now where do you think you guys are going?" Seeing an opportunity to brag, Sasuke kicked the boy. To everyone's surprise, the boy who had been knocked down from the beginning suddenly appeared and caught their attacks before they could make contact. As Sakura examined the boy, she gazed at him in disbelief. "Whoa, what was his origin?" Sakura pondered. "I've never seen this guy move. He's so fast." Sakura looked at Sasuke and thought, "He's totally different from earlier." He also appeared to be in shock. "He used his hands to catch my kick. Was Charka used by him?" Sasuke pondered as he turned to face Naruto to gauge his response. Sasuke felt a little uneasy because Naruto's face was unreadable. "What happened to the Plan Lee? With long dark brown hair," a boy said. The sides of his face are framed by 2 straps that are fastened to a smaller headband beneath his ninja forehead protector. His hair, which appeared to reach the middle of his back, was tied back a few inches above the end. He covered his forehead with a black headband that fit snugly. He was dressed in dark brown shorts and a khaki shirt. Additionally, he had bandages on his right leg, right arm, and right chest. Naruto recognized this person right away. Neji Hyuga was his name. The cousin of Hinata. Lee said, Blushing toward Sakura, sorry Neji Buddha. Leaving the sentence dangling. He approached Sakura while clenching his fist. Hello, I'm Rock Lee. You must be Sakura. Let's go out together, I'll protect you with my life. Lee grinned, his teeth gleaming so brightly that they almost obscured her vision. Sakura reviewed the words in her mind, her face turning horrified. No why you so lame. Sakura said, observing Lee's head lowering in defeat. Highly amused by her friend's new crush, Naruto smiled slightly at the screen. With a slight smile, Neji said to Sasuke, Hey Yua, what's your name? Maintaining his composure, Sasuke turned to Neji and grinned back. Tenten grinned and giggled when Sasuke said, When you want to learn someone's name, you should give yours first. Neji frowned. Neji continued, You're a rookie, right? How old are you? Sasuke turned away with a snort. Neji turned to Naruto and squinted at him, saying, I don't have to answer you. Naruto scowled at him and said, You're Hinata. Sama's new boyfriend, aren't you? The boy was asked by Naruto, and if I am? His treatment of Hinata was the reason Naruto didn't like him. He'll be damned if he hears any bullshit from Hinata, but he has no idea why he dislikes him. Neji smirked and said, Just asking. It was clear from the expression in his eyes that he disapproved of Naruto's relationship with Hinata. Naruto ignored his gifts and remained silent. Sakura pulled the three of them away and said, Sasuke.kun, Sai.san, Naruto, let's go. We have an exam to pass. As he heard Sasuke and Naruto complain, Sai forced a smile. After a few minutes gazing out the window at the sun, Naruto remarked, We had better hurry you guys because we only have 20 minutes before the exams start. As they headed to the tests, everyone nodded. From a balcony above came a voice that said, Hey you, the guy with the dark eyes, please stop. They looked at the boy they knew standing there. Lee was the boy they remembered from earlier. When her admirer saw him here, Sakura flinched in fear. Sasuke gazed up in amazement. What is it? With fire in his eyes, Lee questioned, Will you fight me right here, right now? Wondering, a fight, right now? Sasuke said. Lee jumped down from the balcony and nodded. Lee pointed to himself and said, My name is Rock Lee. Lee used Sasuke's own words against him when he said, You have to introduce yourself when you want to learn a person's name, right? Sasuke, who already knew the answer, remarked, Uchiha Sasuke. If you're challenging me then you must know what I'm capable of. Lee assumed a fighting stance after giving him a nod. Sasuke smirked to himself as Lee stated, I want to fight you. I want to test my techniques against the offspring of a genius clan. Sakura flinched and fled behind Naruto as Lee's gaze shifted to her. Plusa. Lee's face gradually flushed as he winked at Sakura, causing her to cower in Naruto's hair and back. Ew. Those eyebrows are so nasty. Ignoring Sakura's remark, Lee fired a heart at her and, regrettably, Naruto because she was hiding behind him. You're an angel. Sakura and Naruto screamed, Nani, as they barely avoided the heart. Sakura and Naruto screamed at the boy, Teme, don't throw your crap at me. That could have killed us, together. Sasuke let out a sigh at the scream. Sai stood in the rear, closely observing Lee. Sasuke said darkly, underestimating Lee, frankly you're a fool, challenging me when you know of the Uchiha name. You're to learn what this name means bushy brows. Sakura yelled, Yeah kick his ass Sasuke.kun, as she saw him assume his posture. Naruto disagreed and shook his head. With a nod from Sai, Naruto remarked, I don't think this is going to be as easy as you and Sasuke think it will be. Sakura became worried and retorted, What are you talking about, Naruto? This is Sasuke we're talking about. Naruto never took his eyes off Lee as he said, That may be true, but understand that there are people out there stronger than Sasuke. I'm stronger than Sasuke and I can see that this Lee character is more than meets the eyes. Sakura watched, eager to witness the result for herself. Naruto and Sasuke narrowed their eyes at Lee's remark, I'll say this Sasuke.kun. You cannot defeat, because as it stands, right now I am the strongest of all the genins of Konoha. He previously used his hand to stop my kick. As he looked down at Lee, Sasuke thought, that wasn't human. I don't know what kind of ninjutsu he used, but I'm about to find out. The number sounds fun, let's do it. Wait Sasuke.kun, exclaimed Sakura. Sasuke nodded and rushed Lee, saying, We only have 15 minutes to get to the exam. He is on his way. I apologize, Guy. Sensei, but I might have to disobey your rules. Before he blurred away, Lee thought, I might have to use that move. Leaf spinning wind. shouted Lee, who swooped before Sasuke and kicked him in the head. Sasuke ducked when he saw the move coming, but he was unable to avoid the kick that was coming from his right. To Sasuke's surprise, Lee's kick shattered through his guard and sent him flying when he attempted to block. With narrowed eyes, Naruto watched as Lee made a seal before his kick made contact. Why did he make that seal? I didn't feel any charka. Astonished and perplexed by what transpired, Sakura exclaimed, "What happened? He blocked that." As Sasuke went over what had happened in his mind, her thoughts were exactly the same as his. He got past my defenses. Was it genjutsu or ninjutsu that he used? Sasuke scowled at Lee's smirk and thought. As his eyes darted into a Sharingan, shocking Sakura and Sai, Sasuke thought, okay, this just gives me a chance to practice it. Sakura gazed in wonder at her crush. When did he get the Sharingan? Naruto interrupted her thoughts by saying, he got it in Wave Country facing Haku. When she turned to face him, her face was expressionless. Lee was once again in a position ready for battle when she turned to face him. This is great. Sasuke-kun is incredible. If this is the same advanced bloodline as Kakashi Sensei, then he can read Bushy Brow's moves. Ninjutsu or genjutsu, it will reveal it all. Sasuke-kun is getting stronger and stronger. The Uchiha clan is so great. Yeah, Sasuke-kun can't lose to this guy now. Sakura yelled with a thrilled expression on her face. Both Sai and Naruto sighed at her. Sakura gave Naruto a crazy look when he said, no, it still won't help him. However, Sasuke was kicked into the air, so any remark she made was cut off in her throat. Sakura gasped and said, W. What? Everyone stared at Naruto as he laughed, but he remained silent. Lee uttered, Cage Booyah. Shadow of the dancing leaf, behind Sasuke in midair. This is one of the reasons why I said Sasuke would lose, Sakura. Both you and Sasuke assumed that whatever Lee was doing that it involved Charka. I'm afraid that both you are wrong. Though out this whole fight I haven't sensed a single time he used Charka, he said after being shocked by Sasuke and Sakura. Lee turned to face Naruto, who remarked, the only thing that he's been doing in this fight is taijutsu. Very good, Naruto-kun. Did you know that among strong people exists genius types and hardworking types? I am one of these hardworking types. You are about to see what my hard work can do. Lee replied as the bandages were released into the air. Lee whispered, hard work will always surpass a genius. However, a pinwheel stuck the bandages to the wall before he could finish his technique. A voice yelled, that's enough, Lee, as Lee sprang back to meet it. Sasuke watched in disbelief, but he was unable to straighten himself. Fortunately, Sakura managed to grab him before he hit the ground. Naruto, who was clearly shaken by his defeat to Lee, said softly as he turned to face Sasuke, it seems I was right in my assumption. Naruto was watching Lee get eaten out by a turtle when Lee said, you were watching to startle him out of his reverie. I've never seen a turtle summon before, which is interesting. Lee lowered his head and the turtle asked, are you prepared to pay? The turtle screamed, okay then, here comes Guy Sensei, as a puff of smoke shot out from its shell. Above the shell, a man emerged in an odd position. The man's eyebrows were thick and he was very tall. He actually resembled Lee as an adult. The standard Konoha flak jacket was unzipped, and that was the only difference. As Naruto gazed at the man, he thought, this is getting really creepy. His statement, well, it seems you guys are the epitome of youth, set off a chain reaction of alarms in Naruto's mind. Anko Sensei appears to have been correct. Guy Sensei is really unsettling. Guy said, Lee. Lee turned to face him, but he was punched in the face instead, causing everyone to gasp in surprise except Naruto. Sakura shouted, what the hell, at the action. All Naruto could do was laugh at the older clone's behavior. Leah, Guy began as Lee looked at him tearfully. After saying, Guy Sensei, Lee leapt into the arms of the older clone. Lee screamed into Guy's chest, and Guy responded, that's enough, Lee. You don't need to say it. Sasuke watched in disbelief and rage. Anger was causing his eye to twitch. I lost to him? As Lee wiped away his tears, Guy remarked, yes. This is what youth is all about. It's alright, Lee. Youth and mistakes go together. You are too nice, Sensei. Guy received a, yes sir, from Lee when he said, but you did start a fight and almost broke my rules. Your punishment will take place after the Chunin exams. You'll complete 500 laps around our practice field, Guy exclaimed as he returned to his position. Lee greeted the older clone with a, hi, salute. Together, Sai and Sasuke pondered. What on earth is going on with them? Sakura pondered. As Naruto observed both of their antics, he thought, this was quite amusing. Guy looked around at the group. As he edged closer to Sasuke, Sakura winced. These children are students of Kakashi and Anko. They turned to face the man when Guy said, "Hey, how are Kakashi and Anko doing?" Guy laughed when Sasuke asked, "You know them?" Everyone was taken aback when Guy smirked and vanished from view. Behind them came Guy's voice, "People refer Kakashi and me as eternal rivals." Incredulous, Naruto turned to face the man. Gazing at the man, Naruto thought, that was faster than my Shunpo. Guy shocked Team 7 by declaring, with 50 wins and 49 losses, I'm stronger than Kakashi. No why he moves so quickly. He's faster than Kakashi. Is he even human? Sasuke asked in disbelief. It was an eye-opener for him to meet someone stronger than the Hokage, even though he knew Kakashi was insanely strong. Guy grinned at Naruto as he turned to face him. As Naruto forced a tiny grin, Guy remarked, "You must be Anko's students. She praises you a lot. She often speaks about you being the strongest genin in the leaf." Guy said loudly, drawing everyone's attention, "I can't wait to see how you and Lee do in these exams. I can see that your flames of youth shine brightly." "Sorry about Lee. I swear on this beautiful face it won't happen again." Guy then threw a kunai at his pinwheel, causing it to come loose from the wall and take off Lee's bandage. Naruto's suspicion of Lee was validated, and he narrowed his eyes. "Good luck, Lee." Guy vanished in a cloud of smoke after saying that. Lee looked over at Sasuke and nodded to his mentor. Sasuke-kun, I'll say one more thing before we go our separate ways. The truth is I came here to test my abilities. The truth of the matter is that I lied before. I am not the strongest of the Leaf Genins, on my team however is. I've entered the exams, to defeat him. Neji Hyuga and as of now you are also my targets. Lee replied with a snort. Naruto turned and gave Lee a menacing glare, saying, Neji is not the strongest of the Leaf Genins. He is just a prick with a stick up his ass. Naruto grinned and declared, I am the strongest of the Leaf Genins. Lee opened his mouth to speak, but Naruto spoke first. Naruto said, drawing attention from everyone, I would like to thank you, Lee. It's because of you that my little scam was complete. With his eyes narrowed, Sasuke asked Naruto, what are you talking about, dope? The silver-haired hero simply grinned. Naruto asked, drawing a perplexed glance from each of them, did you ever wonder why I tagged along with you guys this far? The realization causes Sasuke and Sakura's eyes to enlarge. I followed you all to gather information. Unlike all of you, I have no team of my own to rely on. I have been trying to gather information on everyone in these exams who is a threat. Sasuke snarled, you've been gathering information on us, as he noticed Naruto nod. It was necessary, Sasuke. Like I said, I have no team. Going into these exams blind would have only hindered me. Thanks to Lee though, I've gotten the information I've been searching for. Naruto replied with a blank expression. Gritting his teeth, Sasuke uttered, what information? Even though he recognized Naruto's motivation, it still infuriated him. Everyone's eyes widened when Naruto said, why, the weakness of the Sharingan. Before turning back to Sasuke, Naruto turned to Lee and grinned at him. As he observed the question mark on everyone's face, including Sai's, Naruto remarked, the Sharingan has the ability to see through all types of nin, gen, and taijutsu. This is your advantage through the Sharingan, but it's a bit different when it comes to taijutsu. When you fought Lee, while it was true that you could read his movements with your eyes, your body did not have the speed to react to his taijutsu. To put it simply, even if you can see it, if your body can't move to counter it, then it's useless. Naruto stated this to everyone's surprise. Sasuke was stunned by this new insight as he stood there. To believe that there was a weakness in the renowned Uchiha lineage, it isn't possible. Naruto's words, Lee, snapped everyone out of their reverie. Naruto's smooth voice made Lee smile broadly as he said, I would like to say that you are very strong. I can tell that you trained for years to get where you are now. You should be proud of your accomplishments. He vanished to go find his own team after saying, Yash, thank you Naruto-kun. I can tell that you hold the power of youth deep within you. I can't wait to fight you in the exams. Guy. Sensei might be right. You might be the strongest genin in these exams. Sasuke looked at Naruto bewilderedly and said, it's about time I go, but did you see it? His hands I mean. In frustration, Sasuke clenched his hands and said, he had all those scars on his hands, like I said, he must have trained hard for years every day. Harder than me, harder than you. He let out a sigh and relaxed. Everyone smiled when Sasuke smirked and said, I see. This exam is getting better by the seconds. Naruto grinned at Sakura and put a hand on her shoulder. She glanced back and nodded, realizing what he had done. She returned the grateful smile. Thank you, Naruto. As Sakura watched Naruto leave, she thought, I may not like that you were gathering information on us, but it was nice that you got Sasuke pumped up for the exams. Sakura yelled, Mata Naruto, as she dragged Sai and Sasuke along for the test. Now, Sasuke was careful to keep a closer eye on Naruto. The number when they arrived at the door, they saw Anko and Kakashi standing in front of it. Anko grinned broadly at her Gaki and exclaimed, Hey Gaki! I see you made it. Kakashi gave the group a wave. As he closed his book and stepped off the wall, Kakashi remarked, So you all came. Now you can properly take the exams. Sakura turned to face her one-eyed sensei and asked, What do you mean Kakashi, sensei? Anko ate a dango she had gotten from somewhere and remarked, The truth is that this test can only be taken by teams of 3. Sasuke narrowed his eyes and said, What? But if that's true, then how can Naruto take the test? He doesn't have a team. Naruto's a special case. He's able to take this test alone because he is a Tokubetsu Genin. Which means that he's shown that he's capable to be a Chunin at an early age. During wartime he would be in charge of the Genins if a higher rank officer isn't available. It was a reason as to why he was given this rank. He was a cut above the rest, Anko said with a scowl. As Sasuke's eyes darkened again, Kakashi remarked, Also he has gotten permission from the Hokage himself to be allowed in the exams. Naruto turned to face Sasuke and said, Don't look so angry Sasuke. With me taking the exams alone puts me a huge disadvantage. As I told you earlier, I had to get info on the people who are going to come after me in the exams because I would be easier to get rid of. It would be 3 against 1, very unfair odds. So while it may seem as though I'm getting special treatment, the truth is that I'm not. In fact, this test will be harder on me than any of you. Naruto said as Sasuke nodded as what he was saying. Gazing at the Genins, Kakashi remarked, He's right Sasuke, this will definitely push Naruto to his limits and beyond. Sasuke remained irate but remained silent about it. Kakashi grinned and said, I'm proud of all of you though. You all came here on your own to grow stronger. I'm as proud as I can be. Now go. Get out of there, Chunin. Anko smirked and said, Kick some ass Gaki. With a nod, Naruto entered the doors. When they did, they saw right away that a sizable contingent of ninjas were staring at them. While Sasuke and Sai remained silent, Sakura whispered, What's this? Naruto recognized a chance to separate from the group. After that, he put himself up on the wall to identify anyone who might pose a threat to him. Despite the large number of people present, I can tell that the majority of them pose little threat based on their chakra level. Gazing at the red-haired Genin, Naruto thought, Gaara is the only one here who would be a major threat. Indeed, he will play a significant role in this test. Everyone else is either very young or not at all, Naruto reflected. A voice exclaimed, Sasuke-kun. You're late, as Naruto turned to face Team 7. He saw Ino cuddling up to him while dangling from Sasuke. Sasuke became irritated when Ino said in a seductive tone, Oh Sasuke-kun, it's been so long. I've been waiting in excitement for you to get here. Sakura screamed at her blonde rival, Get away from Sasuke-kun, Ino.pig. Ino teased her rival, saying, Well, if it isn't Sakura. I see you still rocking that big ugly forehead as always. As Choji ate some chips behind him, Shikamaru sighed and remarked, You guys are taking this stupid test too? Man, this is troublesome. Kiba shouted, Alright. I found you, as Shino and Hinata approached from behind. Kiba looked around and said, Now everyone's assembled. Hey, where's Naruto? When Hinata turned to look around, she saw her boyfriend standing against the wall and gazing off into space. Naruto was startled out of his reverie when she jogged over to him and gave him a gentle tug on the arm. Hinata blushed and said, Naruto-kun, why are you here alone? Come on, let's go with everyone else. Reluctantly, Naruto nodded as he let Hinata pull him to the others. He gave Shino the same nod that he gave himself. With a bored tone, Shikamaru said, Geez, you here too? Naruto gave a frustrated nod. As Ino turned to face Sai, flushed, Kiba remarked, I see all 9 of this year's rookie Genins are taking the exam plus Sai. I wonder how far we will get, Sasuke, Naruto. With a grin spreading across his face, Sasuke remarked, You seem pretty confident Kiba. Naruto said, enjoying watching Kiba go crazy over his remark, Well, this is amusing. It seems the mud is in a hurry to be put down. Kiba boastfully remarked, Just you wait, Naruto, we won't lose to you. Everyone turned to listen to a voice say, You guys sure are loud. You should really be quieter. The man wore round glasses, had gray hair pulled back in a ponytail, and black eyes. He was dressed in a dark purple shirt, a white undershirt, and an angled white obi around his waist. He wore a shuriken holster on his right leg and dark purple pants. Uncontrollably, Naruto growled at him in the background. When Hinata heard this, she remained silent. Speaking down to the children, the man said, screaming like schoolgirls, "Jiza, you guys are rookies just out of the academy, right?" As he spoke to the rookie 9, the man sighed and said, "This isn't a picnic, you know." With an arrogant tone, Ino asked, "Who the hell do you think you are?" "Who, me? Well, I'm Kabuto. Instead of asking who I am, why don't you look behind you?" The rookie 9 turned to look into each competing genin's frightful eyes. They sensed the intent to kill slipping away from them. Hinata was holding his hand more tightly than usual, and Naruto could see it. Thus, he acted as any other animal would. Keep his partner safe. A burst of killing intent engulfed everyone in the room as Naruto glared at them. He made a lot of people gasp for air with his intense ki. The rookie 9 shivered in terror as he looked at Naruto and felt his ki. It was so powerful that even Kabuto appeared surprised. With a somber, icy tone, Naruto asked, "Is there a problem?" Not wanting to annoy Naruto, everyone in the room turned away. "That's what I thought," Naruto said, giving Hinata a gentle squeeze on the hand, which caused her to smile shyly in understanding. As the ki gradually disappeared, the Sand Village team shuddered. With Tamari nodding in agreement, Conqueror remarked, "Wow, this guy's killing intent is just as strong as Gaara's." Gaara shuddered with anticipation. "Mother, I found someone deserving of your food." With a drop of perspiration trickling down his forehead, Kabuto remarked, "Well, I didn't see that coming." Kabuto said, "You're certainly an interesting person. Let me help you a little." Naruto frowned as he dug through his pouch and produced a massive pile of cards. "What are those?" Hinata inquired, and Kabuto grinned in response. The genins gave Kabuto a perplexed look when he told them, "These my cute little rookies are nin.info cards. These cards allow me to get information on anything in these exams. I'm completely ready for anything in the exams." Kabuto laughed. A voice behind him asked, "You wouldn't happen to have any information on any individuals, would you?" The number Uzumaki Namikaze Kai gazed in awe at the rookie 9. He saw a lot of attractive girls, but at the moment, he was more focused on finding and fighting his brother than on girls. He will accomplish the goal he set for himself. Wondering who had captured his attention, Kabuto replied, "Why, yes I do. Who are you looking for?" The rookies gave Kai a wide-eyed look when he said, "I'm looking for a guy called Uzumaki Naruto." Naruto said, "What do you want with me?" As he moved ahead of the novices. He was taller than Kai, by at least a few inches. Kai's eyes were blank as he gazed up at Naruto. This was definitely not what he had anticipated. Coldly, Kai whispered, "Do you have the information?" With a nod, Kabuto produced a card featuring Naruto's image. Naruto Uzumaki, the title Tokubetsu Genin, which hasn't been bestowed since the Second Great Ninja War, was bestowed upon this young rookie. Shishikurosu, Beast Cross, is the bloodline. Naruto can embolism all types of animal DNA thanks to Shishikurosu, which enables him to collect the traits of the animals and use them in combat. Additionally, the bloodline enables the user to communicate with animals. Tekia, adaptation, is another secret bloodline associated with Shishikurosu. Although this enables the user to adjust to any circumstance in times of extreme distress, it appears to be useless in combat. His history of missions: D rank, 15, C rank, 3, B rank, 1, A rank, 1. Notes: Enko Midarashi is his sensei. We only know that he created all of his jutsus and that he possesses an unidentified summon contract that is supposedly as powerful as the Sannin's summons, but that's about all we know about his abilities. He is also rumored to possess Raijin no Ken, the renowned sword of the second Hokage. There are rumors that Naruto and a few other characters will do well on the tests. Everyone stared in disbelief at Naruto's card. Frustrated, Sasuke glanced at Naruto's card. He possesses a sword that belonged to the Nidaime Hokage, and he has the ability to summon. However, one young weapon mistress took notice of that information. How on earth is he able to be so strong? Sasuke clenched his fist in thought. His fingernails sank into his flesh, dripping blood from his hand. "Naruto, I'll take your power." Sasuke glared at Naruto, thinking, "My eyes will get me everything I want." In contrast, Naruto scowled at Kabuto. How is he aware of all that? People would only learn about that if I was listed in the bingo book. I am positive that I am not. We have a traitor, it appears. After giving a nod, Kai turned to glare at Naruto. Naruto's face was expressionless as he gazed down at the boy. As Naruto narrowed his eyes at the boy who appeared to be a very familiar face, Kai remarked, "You're Naruto? I expected a boy with blonde hair and blue eyes." As Kai's glare deepened, Naruto said, "That's how I used to look. I haven't looked that way in 7 years. How do you know of my looks from back when I was kid? Have we met? HMPT, if you last in these exams like everyone expects you to. I might tell you," Kai said, turning to leave. Sasuke inquired about Lee and Gaara, but Naruto ignored him. He did observe that this was Gaara's first time being hit. That was fascinating to him. In his opinion, the man who wanted to fight him was the issue. Naruto's gaze never left Kai's image as he thought, he looks so familiar somehow, but I'm sure I've never seen him anywhere. The sound of Sakura's scream startled him out of his reverie. When he looked back at the group, he saw Kabuto sidestep the blow delivered by a man who resembled a mother. As Kabuto caught Hinata's attention, Naruto fell to his knees. Hinata saw the blood trickling down Naruto-kun's ears and said, "Naruto-kun. Are you okay? What happened?" While attempting to treat his ears, Naruto remained silent. When he turned to face Kabuto, he saw him vomiting on the ground. Sasuke was perplexed as to what attack he employed when the mummy said, "Put this down in your cards. The ninjas of Otogakure are something to be feared." The voice shouted across the room, "Quiet down, you worthless bastards." Every genin was blinded by the massive cloud of smoke that covered the front of the class. A group of people stood in front of the genins, smirking and glaring at them as the smoke cleared. Naruto recognized the group leader as soon as he approached. Ibiki Morino is in charge of the department that collects and analyzes information. Given that Anko's former boss would be his first test, Naruto cursed himself. Sighing, Naruto attempted to repair the harm to his ears. "Let's make something clear. I will not allow fighting without the permission of the examiner. So you lot better control yourself, or you will never pass these exams." The frightened man grinned at the genins, but no one spoke. Now let's start the first phase of the exams.
That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this great story. See you in the next one.